sometimes, and I never know what's going on.
Hi, everybody. This is the 20th episode of Love Bomb, and I am joined by Gavin. And I feel like we orchestrated this thing what feels like so long ago. And I remember
I'm
when we were putting it,
sorry.
it's fine, because I remember when we were putting it together, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so long from now. And then I was thinking, I was like, oh my God, it's today. Like,
Yeah,
it ended up
I
being way
was.
sooner.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it for a long time as well. Like it's been, yeah, a long time coming. But that was all me. I was being a diva. I was being like, I can't do it until I come back from my holidays and stuff. So
Look, you were busy.
I was booked and busy. What can I say?
Yeah.
I was getting myself around, getting to all these different places. But
Well,
when
we're
you're
we're
young,
definitely going to talk about it because I basically came to your country as you left your country. So there was that.
yes. I know. I am so sad. I'm so sad. I would have literally gotten on the train, like, because you were further down south, weren't you, when you
I
visited
was,
England?
yeah, I went
Yeah.
to Devon. We went to Dartmoor and we then went
Mm,
into the New Forest and ended
mm,
in London. So I was not the
yes.
furthest south, but fairly south.
But considering how close nearly everything is in the
Yeah.
UK anyway, compared to America in Canada,
Yes.
everywhere else,
Yeah.
essentially, like we are just a train ride away, like what,
Hmm.
2.5 hours? Like I live
Yeah,
quite
it's not
far off
bad.
the country, but yeah, 2.5 hours to 3 hours on the train to London.
Hmm.
I could have met
Yeah.
you there. Could have met you.
We were thinking about doing a northern trip, and I think that's the next trip we're going to do to England. We
Excellent.
think we want to do possibly an Edinburgh
Mm.
into northern England and do Lindisfarne, Newcastle, like that type of
Mm.
trip.
Yes,
So, I
yes,
mean, we'd be able to definitely connect on that
yes.
one, unless you decide to go to Melbourne again.
Could you imagine? Literally, I'm. It wouldn't be on purpose. I promise. I'm not like literally leaving the
No.
country as you get here or
Oh my
anything.
gosh,
But
so funny.
literally,
But yeah, we
oh,
were talking off screen about your trip and just how
mm,
you flew like 48 straight hours for 5 days.
mm.
And I was commending you because
Because
I
why?
I mean, because why is one thing, but like good for you, just good for
Mm.
you.
Literally, that's what I'm saying. Is like you as well. When we talk about like just like living, like it's getting ourselves out there and
Yep.
just taking those first steps to being kind of brave again to get us out of there as
Yes,
well. It was much needed, very needed. I'm sure your England trip was much needed as well. As
it
much as we hate
was.
the planes, as
Oh
much as we
yeah,
hate the planes, but
it's plain.
it's much needed.
I hate the planes so much. Hi, Joanna, true Gavin fan.
Literally, I honestly I do commend Joanna for even watching like any of that. I always think when I upload like a 5 hour video, I'm like, who's gonna watch that really? Like, come on.
I mean, I commend you so much for that, honestly. But so, yeah, we were talking about this a little bit, just like in terms of getting ourselves out there a little bit more. And
Mhm,
you and I, we have not talked outside of like our
mm,
few little exchanges on Instagram. Like, this is our first time really chatting, which I always really
yes.
love when it happens on a live because it's like,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? But
Anything and everything can
it could
happen.
be
Literally.
anything.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, do you like when you do like Love Bomb, like you do get a lot of people on who you've already done live shows with, but like
Yeah.
you have done this before where you've
Hmm.
met the person for the very first time on the live
Yep.
show, right?
Yeah.
And
And
they've
I
done
love it.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done well.
Honestly, like,
So,
I really don't think there's been one that's gone poorly. I've really enjoyed my
mm,
conversations with everybody, which has been so nice. And I
mm,
think this was kind of my answering to a lot of the negativity that I was seeing on BookTube for a
mm,
period of time where it was like, I hate all of these things and all of these
mm.
tropes in books. And I was like, what about all of the books we love? Because I can't stand opening this and only seeing negativity at this point. So
Fair.
yeah, I find it's easier to have conversations with people that you're just meeting for the
Mhm,
first time when you're sharing a general affection for a specific thing. It's you already have
yeah.
that foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, you're a great host as well. Like you've got
Thank
what
you.
you've already got 19 successful Love Bomb episodes under your belt already. And honestly, I do love I love like I only discovered like last year, like towards the end of last year, but there's quite a few booktubers and like people in like the fantasy sphere specifically as well that do these kinds of live shows where you talk about like anything and everything. And yeah, I discovered it end of last year when I was watching Jimmy and Joanna and you. It's like I love it. Like I love being able to just like tune into a live show, just people just talking about things and just talking about anything and everything.
Exactly. I love it too, because I feel obviously we are very limited in how we get to know people through the content that we put out, because it's very formulaic in that it's okay, this is my top 10 of this, or this is my TBR. And it's like, we get to know people's preferences and tastes, but we don't necessarily get to know the person behind that. And the conversations allow you to actually get to know someone in a more interesting and meaningful way. So I always really like that. Also because hearing some people's book choices, you go like, oh, that's interesting. Like I wouldn't have pegged that for that person. And then when you really get into the nitty gritty with them, you're like, okay, I see it now. So I like that part of it. But one of the things I always ask people when they come on is, what is something that you have recently read or are currently reading that you are really loving?
Oh, that is a really good question, because like this is an up and down kind of answer, because I have a series. Hi, Becky. So I'm reading a series at the minute, and it is the Wicked series by Gregory Maguire, and like it's a love and hate kind of thing, because I did actually really enjoy. Well, that's not the first book. I really enjoyed the first book quite a lot. Like I really did like it. It's been getting like such weird mixed reviews, and it is weird. It is a little bit strange. And I haven't really been enjoying the sequels as much, but this recently it was a bit of a surprise. And what's even weirder as well is that I actually had read it before, and I like totally forgot like everything. Like I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I literally read it I think like 14 years ago or something, and it just like completely went out of my head. So Rena was like reading it for the first time.
I do love when that happens, especially when you liked it the first time and you're like, I should like this again.
But then I feel awful as well. I'm like, how did I forget? Like, and does that make me a bad reader? I don't think it does. No. But like the amount of times I do read books, and I read a lot, I read probably a bit too much. It's so easy for things to just like escape my brain. And like things that I've even read at the start of this year, I already kind of have started to forget a little of. Muddy, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But you remember how that book makes you feel. You remember that you loved it or hated it or whatever. But sometimes it's like, but I can't really exactly tell you what exactly happened in the book. I just remember loving it. Sometimes I might not be able to tell you a character name either, but I just remember loving it. And so that was kind of me with Wicked. I was like, like there was so much of this that I'd forgotten. It's like I read it for the first time.
So that is the book series that influenced the musical, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was 1996 the first book came out, and then the musical was like 2003.
Okay, I read the book in, I want to say like 2006.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't love it. But I remember part of it for me was that I grew up on The Wizard of Oz. So I was having such a hard time separating the two in my head. I was like, what is happening? And when I saw the musical, like I haven't actually gone to the theater to see the whole musical, but I've seen so many clips of Adina and Kristen that I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I don't know what I didn't resonate with the book, but I'm almost wondering if I would give it a try now, if I would like it substantially better. I don't know. I just don't know.
Oh, that's such a tricky question as well. I feel like because I talk to people who have been like such Wizard of Oz enthusiasts, and they love the Wizard of Oz. And so, because I assumed that if you love the Wizard of Oz, you'll love Wicked,
right?
Like the book. Because I love the Wizard of Oz so much. It's like my favorite childhood film. I grew up on it as well, and I just assumed everyone would love it because like there are some like clever nods to the original, and I love like the kind of reimagining of it, and how it almost makes the like original Wizard of Oz book feel like rewritten history, because like they've covered up this whole propaganda against the Wicked Witch. Like it really does feel like it could belong in the canon of that world. And I love stories like that so much, so I assumed everyone would love it. But it is incredibly strange, and the sequels do get a little bit stranger, like really strange. Things I could not say on a live show because you get demonetized. So like we'll probably stay away from that. But maybe you would end up enjoying it more. Maybe you would have a different like understanding of it now.
Yeah.
You would probably, I don't know, like as an adult, maybe like some of those themes would resonate with you more in terms of like
Right.
Alphaba's journey, because like she
Yeah.
grows up so much in the book itself. So,
Yeah.
and I just went to see the film today and I loved it.
I was
So
curious because I saw that you
yeah,
went, so I was going to ask
yeah,
you if you enjoyed it, and
I
success.
loved it. Oh,
Okay.
I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
it so much. I was ready to cry. But then again,
Aw.
I feel like I'm the kind of person who's kind of easily pleased, which makes me a great
Fair.
reader sometimes, because it means that as long as I'm entertained, I'm happy.
Mm,
But like, yeah, I guess sometimes it's a little bit harder to gouge whether or not I like, if other people would like what I like,
sure.
because I'm very easy to please.
I
For
feel
maybe a little
like
too easy.
I can be that way, but I have to be in a
Mm,
very specific mood, and I've noticed that
mhm,
I am harsher on specific genres than I am with
mm,
others. So I am in the middle. I'm not in the middle. I'm on the last book of a romantasy series right now, and I've had a
mm,
great time. And it's The Legends of Thesmar by Helen
mm.
Schroer. And
Okay.
I just read Project Hail Mary with my friend Kyle,
Right.
with the channel read by Kyle.
Mhm,
And I thought it was fine.
mhm,
Like, I had a list of things that I was
mhm,
sending Kyle as we were budding reading it. And I was like,
mhm.
I feel like this doesn't work, or like this doesn't make sense. And he's like, why can't you just enjoy this for what it is? And I was like, I don't know. I really don't know. But then I look at other genres and I'm like, doesn't have to make any sense. It's perfect, 5 stars,
Mhm,
like it's I don't know why that is, but my
mhm.
brain compartmentalizes it in that way.
Yeah, sometimes it makes us maybe look a little hypocritical,
A
because like
little
something that,
bit.
yeah, we will forgive so many book sins in one book series or like
Yep.
one genre, and then we
Yes.
read it in a different book. It's like, no, it's the worst, and I hate it and stuff like
Is
that. So
there a
I
book
get it.
series or genre that you feel like you are overly
Mm.
forgiving?
Overly forgiving. Oh, well, I always was overly forgiving to like middle grade, like when I used to read a lot of middle grade. Obviously,
Mhm.
because like I'm not the target audience, and so I would like forgive a
Sure.
lot. But even then, I still think that middle grade like can be written well and should
Yeah.
be written well. So there were definitely like times when I've been like,
Yeah.
maybe not. But in terms of like young adult and adult, I am actually the other side of that question. I'm more harsh on romance than I
Okay.
am on anything else, and I don't know why.
Like
I don't.
contemporary romance or romance as a whole? Like which
Romance romance as a whole, like, but I
like
think definitely contemporary romance more than
yeah.
anything. But I think it's probably because I'm bitter. Like I've always been single. I've never had love myself, so I'm very
Mm,
bitter when it comes to like
I see.
reading yeah, when contemporary romances and it's all like all lovey dovey and it's all happy. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, break up. I want there to be drama. Like I don't want a happily ever after. So I feel like once I've settled down myself and maybe I found love,
Maybe.
maybe I will start being more forgiving with romance.
It's possible. It might also make you more sinister. Who knows?
Maybe,
Who
maybe.
knows?
I'm actually kind of like really intrigued to see how that would work now. Like maybe more sinister towards romance.
Maybe. I mean, so I only started reading romantasy this year. Like
Mhm,
prior to this year, I never went near it. And it's been a really interesting journey for me because now I've learned that I love it.
mm,
But I find I agree with you in contemporary romance that I'm really picky. I just like Emily Henry for me is my goat. Like I love
okay.
her so much, and I'm like, girlfriend can do no wrong for me. Even if everyone thinks it's a terrible book, I'm sitting here going, guys, it's amazing. 5 stars. You should definitely read it. You'll maybe like it. But others that people have loved, I'm like, no, not so much. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
Again, it's that thing where it's like
mhm.
certain genres that I'm being more critical of than I am with others. I don't know.
That's so interesting you bring up Emily Henry. So I've read 2 Emily Henry books and I have not enjoyed.
No.
I know. But again, I think it's a me problem. I think it's a me problem. But
Maybe.
also,
Which ones
yeah,
did you read though? I need to know which ones you read.
I read Book Lovers
Okay.
and I read Beach Read.
So I would ask from the
Hmm.
bottom of my soul if you were to read another one, that it be
Hmm.
Funny Story.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
Beach Read was her first foray into romance, and I think it
Uh-huh.
shows. And
Okay.
Book Lovers is my least favorite of the
Okay.
books.
Okay.
So I think it would be interesting if you read Funny Story.
Mm.
If you still hate it, then I'd say it's probably done for.
So I needed to like third time's the charm and try it. So
Maybe.
my problem is sometimes with romance is, and then we'll talk about all the things I love about romance, because again, like this is love bomb, like we want to love
Gotta
bomb
love
this
it.
week.
Exactly. Thanks, Brent.
But like, so yeah, let's get like the negativity like out of our system. But like one thing I just don't really like about contemporary romance, and why I didn't really like those Emily Henry books, is that I find it's so boring, just two people talking about themselves and just like having these conversations that don't enhance my life. You know what I mean? Like I take nothing from two people being like, oh yeah, I like walks on the beach and I have a cat, like I'm quirky and stuff like that. Like two people sitting down, like give me something a little bit more like creative. Like I want like more of a like creative like first date. Maybe one of them saves the other's life. So that's why I'm a lot more forgiving with romantasy.
Did you just
or,
say
like,
saves the other's life?
Yes. I want like actually I want one of them to be in danger, about to die.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them's about to fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
And then the other one like
that would be
drags them.
interesting.
It would
That
be
would
very
be
interesting.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that I want. I'm like, I don't really want to care about two people talking about themselves. You know, it's like it's just nothing for me. But that's why I do need to like be a lot more forgiving with romance, and because how else is a romance going to happen? You know, I totally get it. Like, how are two people supposed to get to know one another if they're not talking? But I still like be more creative. Like, I don't want them to just like play pool or like snooker or whatever you call it, and they're just like talking and being like, oh yeah, I have a depressing past. Like, I don't talk to my parents anymore. Blah blah blah. You know, like make me care. Like make me care.
I feel like funny story may work for you because there's a really big vindictive revenge aspect to that book. Yeah.
Okay.
So I feel like that might work for you. And I mean, it still does have, of course, like the two love interests getting to know each other, and like, you know, they are complex people, but there is this level of good quality humor because it has that like pointed getting back at exes plot to the story, which is really fun. So I think it might be successful.
Well, let me write this down before. So, funny story.
Yes, funny story.
I'll see if my library has it, and then we'll make it happen.
I will say too, I love her audiobook narrator, Julia Whalen, who's also a writer in her own right. She's written 2 contemporary romances. So Gavin and I were talking about this off screen, and that I'm forcing myself to be social, and that I joined a book club that I drive 40 minutes to get to because I'm in the middle of nowhere.
40 minutes.
40 minutes. And it is it's a contemporary romance book club, and I was going for the closest thing that they had to romantasy. No one around me has a romantasy book club, so that's where I ended up, which was fine. But Julia Whalen wrote this book called Thank You for Listening, which deals with the world of audiobooks and being a romance audiobook recorder, and how a lot of romance audiobook narrators like to keep their identities secret for reasons of it being overtly salacious material and things like that. And it was a really interesting read because this is someone who is actively familiar with that field. It was semi-autobiographical and really, really fantastic. So highly recommend that one too if you're looking for like really funny banter. Also good representation in that book, which I super enjoyed. The main female character has a disability, so there's that. So it's not your standard romance novel. Really enjoyed that one too.
Well, as long as the banter is good as well, like you need to feel the chemistry. Like it's easier to say chemistry on screen, like if you're watching a like a romance film, it's easier to see it, but to actually translate that onto the page, it must be like it must be nearly impossible. Like I don't write or anything, so I couldn't really attest to that. But like I can imagine it's so super hard. And going to Lynn, like saying about like the hot summer thing. Remember like 5 minutes ago when I was saying we're hypocrites? Like, there's always an exception. Always an exception.
That's so funny. So do you like rom-coms then? Is that something that
I actually do. I love like rom-com films. Like I love like you know the really corny Hallmark Christmas films. you know, I start watching them and I'm like, I have a bingo board of all of the cliches, all of the things that happen, and I
Yeah.
roll my eyes the entire time. And then
Yes.
it gets to like the last like 10 minutes of the film,
Mhm.
and like they're getting together and it's all happy ever after. I'm crying. Like I'm literally so happy. You know, like I have those feelings because like I'm like, this
Yeah.
happens all the time. Like this is so overdone, but it
Mhm.
sucks me in. Like, and I think movies have a much like quicker way for me to get sucked in than
Sure.
like a book can get me sucked in for. So
Yeah.
yeah, I call myself a reader, and yet I'm talking about films and
That's
stuff
okay.
like that.
It's
It's just
stories. It's stories.
it is.
You know,
It
that's
is.
so for me, I'm not a Hallmark watcher, but
Mm.
I definitely have an affinity for 90s rom-coms and things like
Mm.
that in general. Like
Yeah.
my first, I feel like I don't know if it was my first, but the first romantic movie I feel like that I saw in the cinema and the theater was Ever After. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
still love that movie. I'm like,
Yeah.
guys, it's amazing. So good. Which then, of course, led to things like 10 Things I Hate About You and things like that, which
Mm.
is still like
Love
seared
it.
into my heart. My husband
Oh my gosh.
hadn't seen it, so I made him sit down and watch it a couple months ago. And even
Cool.
he, who is like not into that stuff at all, was like, this was a good film. And I was like, I know, these movies can be great.
Yes, and those movies could not really happen without books as well. Like, say, like Ever
Exactly.
After and like Cinderella and 10 Things I
Mhm.
Hate About You, Taming of the Shrew. Like
Yes.
things like that is like so fantastic. And
Yes.
I love when films like take a classic or anything and just
Mhm.
totally changes it for that. Like, yeah, as you say, like, I love those 90s and 2000s rom-coms as
Yeah.
well. They're just so there's something different about them. I even love like 80s
Yeah.
films as well, like a lot of
Oh, me too.
80s films. Oh, I just freaking love any of that.
Oh, thank you, Slay. That's so nice. Thanks for introducing me to Gavin, Laura. Quick question for Gavin. What's a book you
Ooh.
didn't expect to like but ended up loving?
Mm, good question. I actually never expected to like Agatha Christie. Like I
Oh,
genuinely didn't
okay.
think. Yeah, like Agatha Christie as a whole, like not just like a specific book, but I didn't think I would like class.
As
Well,
a
in
whole.
fact, yeah, I didn't think I would like any classic detective fiction at all. Like I thought
Interesting.
I just thought like maybe like we would be so far into like the modern era that having a classic murder mystery like from like the
Mhm.
early 1900s would
Yes.
be like it wouldn't hold up. And I don't know why.
Right?
Like, that was like a preconceived notion, I guess. But yeah, I think I can't really think of an example for a specific book, but I remember going into Agatha Christie thinking, I'm just doing this for a video. Like, there's no
Yes.
way I'm gonna like it. And then it turns out I do.
Love
Like,
it
I
so much.
really
Yeah.
love. Yeah, I was so impressed. I was so impressed. I was like, it still holds up like 100 years later, and I
Oh,
have
it's
fun
incredible.
solving them. I have so much fun solving them. Like what I
Mhm.
do is, I mean, maybe they aren't the best stories in terms of like, because usually like when it's Poirot, for instance, it's just a
Mhm.
lot of talking. It's a lot
Oh,
of
yes.
just asking questions, interrogating, and it's not like on paper it doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun, but the fun part is solving them yourself. And
Yep.
that's what I do in every single Agatha Christie book I read. I I try to solve it, and that's like the fun part for me. So I end up really enjoying that experience.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could say if maybe there was a book that I read um this year that I ended up liking. Oh, and there was a romance book called The Charm Offensive. Actually, that is a contemporary romance that I did enjoy, and
Okay.
that's the Charm Offensive. I think by Alison Cochrane.
Okay.
That one was very
Heard of
good.
that one.
Yeah, and also there's some specific Stephen King books that I didn't think I would like too. I didn't think I would like Salem's Lot just because it was
Mm,
chunky. It was like a bigger book, so I was like, I don't think I would
yeah.
like this. Same with The Stand. I thought that's just going to be way too much for me.
Mhm.
The Eye of the World, Robert Jordan. I ended up reading The Eye of the World, and I actually really liked it, and I didn't think I
Okay.
would.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting choice.
Well, the only reason why I didn't think I would like it was again, I thought the series was too long,
It
and
is,
then
but that's
I
fine.
ended up, yeah, like I did something really stupid this year, and like I do regret it. Like I wish I never did it, but I did do like a first and last video. Like I read the first Wheel of Time book, and then I skipped all the books in the middle, and I read the last book. But after I read the first book, I was like, you know what? Actually, I kind of do want to read all the books in the middle. Like I kind of
Mhm.
don't want to do this video anymore. But yeah, I feel like those examples. Okay, so the more I thought about it, the more I could come up with some examples.
So we've got some good examples in there, but thank you, Slay. Back to the 80s, yes, John Hughes films. I love John Hughes films. I've watched The Breakfast Club probably about at least 100 times, if not more. It's my favorite of the John Hughes films. Also Home Alone, which was a John Hughes film.
What other John Hughes films are there? I'm trying to.
Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles. I think he did. Oh, what's that one? I don't like it. They're all in. They're all in DC. And they're like all getting jobs and getting on with their life, and they're all like collectively cheating on each other with the other people. Like it's not my favorite. Oh, what's it called?
I don't think I've seen that one. That one does not ring a bell.
It's not good.
I'll stay away from it.
If someone remembers what the name is in the chat, please say it. Almost Fire. Yes, that's the one. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is a John Hughes film. Someone please confirm for me. But yes, I know. I very poorly just described that film.
It just, well, I don't want to watch it, so I think you described it perfectly.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's so funny that you had that experience with Eye of the World, because Eye of the World took me 3 times to finish.
Really?
Yeah, I started the first one. A friend gave it to me when I was in, I was doing my undergrad, and I got it around finals, which was the worst time. So I started it and then was like, oh, I'm distracted, went back into finals, and then never picked it up again. And then the second time I was like, I'm committed. I'm going to read it this time. And I found that I was getting so fatigued as I was reading it. I was like, this is the most descriptive thing I've ever read. And I've read Lord of the Rings. I was like, this is just a thing. So I finally listened to the audiobook, and I found that worked substantially better for me. So I've done the first 3 books, and that's where I'm at.
Oh, so I've read the last book before you.
Wow. Yeah, you have. Which, I mean, I don't know if I'll ever get to the last book, but that's okay. It's interesting though, because you've kind of seen the comparison in the writing between Jordan and Sanderson. So yeah.
And it was a good experience. Like, some of the reasons why I like to do that, like I did that with Throne of Glass as well, like 2 years ago, and that was, again, like not even just like 2 different writers. I know, right? Yeah. And like, I was so confused. But like, even just seeing like a writer's like journey itself, like, you know, with Sarah J. Maas going from the first to the last one, Robert Jordan to Brandon Sanderson, you know, like it can be quite jarring. But I'm a highly a story reader. So sometimes I can't even really tell author cues sometimes. And like, I imagine if you like were a writer, like as you are, I think you could probably tell it. I think if you read the first and last Wheel of Time book, just like one after the other, you would probably be able to tell more than I could. The more like the writing changes and the writing style more. I don't know, but it's an experience.
Hold on, and then we're going to get back to Sarah J. Maas, because I do want to talk about Sarah J. Maas with you. My first date in high school was St. Elmo's Fire. I tried to put my arm around my first date, got it stuck between movie seats, and left.
Oh, no.
Sorry. I'm also so sorry to all of you that you guys like this movie. Okay, yes, it's not a John Hughes film, but as Slay said, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is also a very underrated John Hughes film. Great.
I do like that one, yeah.
So the first video of yours that I ever found was your Crescent City vlog, where you read all of them to get ready for the third one, which I had, like I said earlier, I just got into my romantasy reading this year, and the order in which I read Sarah J. Maas was ACOTAR, Throne of Glass, and then Crescent City. And of the 3, ACOTAR is my favorite by a lot. I then have Crescent City, and Throne of Glass is in last place for me. So I am very much in the minority. Like most people are really hardcore stan Throne of Glass, which is fine. I'm very happy for them. But when I started reading Crescent City, I was like, what is happening here? And I was like very confused if I wanted to continue with the book. So I made it through book 1, and I was like, okay, no, I'm here now. But it took me about like 250 pages for the plot to really get moving for me.
It's a big
And
one. Yeah.
it's a big one, but I am that person that I'm like, I will commit to this because of how much I loved another series that you wrote, and I will push through. Like, that's the mentality I have. And I came across your blog and I was like, all right, we're settling in. And basically, I watched it with you as I read through the books. And I
Oh,
was like,
interesting.
very similar reactions here.
Okay,
So
good.
I thought that was an interesting experience for me. And that's
I
how I found you.
I love the fact that that was like the first one, and like
Yeah.
and that was the one that I did like last minute too,
Yeah.
because I did read the first Crescent City book before it came out. Like, I begged the publisher for an ARC copy of it, and they sent me an ARC. I was over the moon, and I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved the first Crescent City book, but then when the second book came out, I had very little interest, and I don't know why. Because I loved the first book. I thought the first book was great, and I loved the Agatar series. I thought that was great too. I even loved A Court of Silver Flames, which a lot of people
It's
are the biggest fan of.
amazing. So good.
I love A Court of Silver Flames.
I love
It's
it. Yeah.
great. Oh my god! I'm so glad about that. I didn't read Throne of Glass by that point, but I was really excited for Crescent City, and I thought the first book was great. I agree with you. Like, I love the first like 80, 90 pages. You know, when like something big happens.
Yes.
Like, that was great. Like, it hooked me, and then it lost me, and then it got me again.
Exactly.
And maybe lost me a little bit, but definitely had me by the end.
Yeah.
And then book 2 happened, and then I was like, where is this going? You know, like, what is the point? And then
I was a little confused at the beginning of book 2. I was like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not sure this is necessary, Sarah. I'm not sure. But
did you read them like back to back as well?
I read all 3 back to back. So
wow. Okay.
I am a binger by nature. I love binging a series. So I read every book of hers in a month. I did ACOTAR in a week. I did Throne of Glass in like 10 or 11 days. And then jumped right into Crescent City. So
I've never done anything like that. Like, that is impressive.
It was a lot. I can also confirm my mental health was not the best during this time, guys. So I needed distractions.
Fair.
But honestly, it was a really interesting experience, kind of going back to what you were saying earlier in watching how an author's work evolves and changes. And it was really interesting for me with Sarah because my first exposure to romantasy in general happened when I was like 14, but I didn't realize that it was romantasy at the time because that category didn't exist. It was just not that, which ended up being the True Blood series, but in book form, which the Charlaine Harris Southern
yes.
I read all of those when I was like 14. Well, then they weren't all out. The last one came out, I think, when I was like 21 or 22. So pretty much like through my teens, I read those. But my 2 best friends earlier in the year, like I said, I wasn't like mentally in the best state. And I said to them, I was like, I need brain candy, like just something fun to read. Because up until that point, I was reading a ton of epic fantasy. And I thought, I'm just not in the right headspace for this right now. And they were like, you need to read Fourth Wing. And I was like, no, I don't think I do. And they were like, no, like you should read Fourth Wing. And I was like, I have opinions about Fourth Wing and I don't think you're going to like them. They were like, just stop talking, go read it. And like you, I was like, I'm just going to do this for a video for the channel. And I was like, this is great. I had a great time, and it ended up being a completely eye-opening experience for me that I was like, I actually really enjoy this type of thing when I'm in the right mood for it. Yeah. So that then segued into my my month of Sarah J. Maas.
That was a true binge.
Yeah. And it just went back to back to back. And with ACOTAR, I know a lot of people are really iffy on the first book, and I get it. And book 2 just like it's one of my books of the year. I friggin' love Akamath so much. And I ended up loving A Court of Silver Flame. I am super jazzed for the next ACOTAR book. Like, I loved it. So when I jumped into Throne of Glass, I was like, this is interesting. We feel like we've done a little bit of a regression here. And then I realized that Throne of Glass was her first series. I didn't know that before going into it. And she had started writing it when she was 16. And I really do feel like in that series, it is a very clear example of how writing can change over the course of an author's career. And I thought it got progressively better as it went on and became more adult. I think that's part of it, is that the first 4 books are definitely more in YA territory, and the latter of the series is more adult. And then Crescent City really threw me for a loop because I was like, I don't know what to expect anymore. So, it was just so different. I was like, we've had all kinds of things going on here. Now urban fantasy in the mix, like, what am I supposed to do with this? So,
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, because if I hadn't have started with Crescent City, because Crescent City was the very first Sarah J. Maas book I read, so I went in not expecting anything because I didn't know anything. I think I think it was Crescent City first, and then Akatar I read the first one. So like I kind of went like backwards because then it was Throne of Glass, so I went back in Sarah J. Maas's catalog.
yeah.
And that was an experience itself. But yeah, I totally agree with you on like Akamath and stuff. And also I agree with you when like reading something at the right time.
Oh yeah.
Like thinking that you're gonna not like something, like say anything romantically related or anything, which I would love to know exactly what that means exactly, because I still struggle to know what the difference is. I didn't think that Sarah J. Maas was romantasy. I genuinely thought that was like I thought it was fantasy, you know, and then with romance in it, so I thought it was like fantasy romance. So
well,
I'm
basically what it is.
Yeah, but then I'm like, what is it? Just like a marketing ploy for like publishers, or just so like, okay, so like that makes more sense. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. But yeah, it was definitely something that I thought I would write off to. Didn't think it was gonna amount to anything like personally for me. But when I just switch my brain off, I just have a good time. That's exactly what the Akatar series did, and it's very hard for me to have like a book boyfriend. I think someone mentioned book boyfriends before.
Oh yeah.
Yes, like that was like, probably my first experience with like a book boyfriend. You know, like actually like falling for a character was obviously recent.
Oh, of course,
of course it was. Although, it's like I don't know like what to say without spoilers and stuff. But like, I guess it doesn't really spoil it to say that, you know, of course Silver Flames follows a different character, but like you still see like Feyre, Recent and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like it when a main character gets delegated to being a side character sometimes, because it feels like they change so much. And that's kind of what I felt with like the Court of Thorns and Roses series as it progressed and changed the main characters. I don't like it when the main characters become secondary. Like I don't know what it is, but it doesn't feel authentic to me. It feels like I don't know, like it feels like fan fiction, which seems weird.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain that, but they just seem to change, and it's like they're just in it for like to be like a cameo or something, just to bring the popularity back, because they're beloved from the past, and now they're just like making a cameo appearance or whatever like that. So that's why like as soon as we changed perspectives in A Court of Thorns and Roses, loved the new main character, loved like following them, but when the main characters become secondary, I'm like, I don't know if I like them anymore.
I get that. I actually really, I know a lot of people struggled with that within that series, specifically because of how the perception of that, like some of the characters change. But I liked it because of the contention between those characters, that I was like, you're not supposed to view them the same way. Like you're just not. And you have to kind of go in with the guise of which narrator do I feel to be more reliable type thing. And I like that dynamic about it.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's interesting. Well, you've opened my mind a little bit there, because I'm thinking about perspective and how you're able to change the narrative on someone depending on who tells the story, I guess. Because again, I'm just like comparing it to like say Wicked and the Wizard of Oz, like telling the Wicked Witch of the West story from her point of view, kind of thing. It is interesting how you can change a character completely depending on who tells the story. That's like this is why you're the writer. This is why I just read.
Not so much, but yeah, so I love that you and I kind of took that Sarah J. Maas journey together, even though you had no idea that we took that journey together.
No, I'm honestly, this is why I love doing like complete series reading vlogs sometimes, because I did the Raven Boys recently, and a few people said, oh, you know, I'm gonna watch your part in it once I've read that book and then come back to it, you know, like almost like we're buddy reading it kind of thing. That's why I love doing it. That's why I love spoiler reviews. I love spoiler videos. So that I can get like all of the thoughts, all of the feelings. And it's like, like you get way more when it's that way, because when you're trying to talk spoiler free, it's very hard.
I can't do it.
It's impossible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's impossible to like, because
Yeah.
then you feel like you're repeating yourself. You're like, oh yeah, that's great. Like it's good. I love this. I
I
love this
really
theme.
loved this.
It's
Yeah.
hard. Yeah, it's hard to like change it up every time because you're trying to give a good opinion on it. But when you're
Exactly.
trying to skirt spoilers, it's hard. But like going back to the Crescent City, like reading all three of them, I
Mhm.
was debating just doing it like spoiler free. And I was like, it would have been a much shorter video. You know,
For sure.
it would have been so short, and I probably would have not made any sense by the third book because by
Right.
that point, why are you watching anymore? You know, if you're not going to
Right?
read the first two, why are you still watching the third book? So it was an interesting one. But I love it when I get to take a reading journey with someone, whether or not I know that they're taking the journey with me. I
Yeah.
still adore it. So
Yeah.
next time you're gonna have to let me know so we can actually do it together.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, just schedule it now. The next Sarah J. Maas release we'll do
When is it? Do you know?
think it'll be next year. That's my hope.
Okay.
If not, I think it'll be early 2026. But the next book is supposed to be the next ACOTAR book. So
well, I'm excited for that.
I am too.
I'm not looking forward to any more Crescent City books. Like, because I really did not like the third book. It really put me off. But I'm still excited for the next ACOTAR book.
See, I was in a mood where I was easy to please. So I read that and I was like, great. But I understood. So I'm the type of person that I try to go in blind to what I read for the most part. There's certain books that I've gone in where I have a general premise or understanding. Mistborn specifically was the one where I was like, okay, there's like a lot of metals and stuff. Like that's pretty much the extent of what I knew. But when I finish a book, I will go and binge people's reviews about it because sometimes when people talk about what they really hate about a book, I'm like, I really liked it for that exact reason.
Yeah.
And I just get so motivated by it.
I'm sure I've heard you talk about this before, and I'm sure I've heard loads of people talk about this before, and like they're like talking to other people about, you know, watching someone's like worst books video. you end up finding books that you'll end up loving. Yeah, like it happens all the time.
All the time. And I mean, like, it's funny because I feel that often people use the same level of enthusiasm to talk about things that they love and they hate, right? It's just like they're so animated by it. And I'm like, I get it. You hated it. But I'm like, and I love it for those exact reasons. And that's great. So for me, when I read it, I was like, this to me made sense. A lot of the decisions made sense. And people are like, character work, terrible. And I'm like, I thought it was fine. But looking back on it reflectively, I mean, I haven't reread that series. I'm like, I get it. Like, you know, I completely understand why people feel that way. A lot of people feel that way too about Joe Abercrombie, whom I love so much, where they're like, the ending, I didn't like it. I'm like, oh, I thought it was great, you know? And they're like, no, I will never read another book by him again because of the ending. And I'm like, really? So, you know, so I mean, what works for, like, you're never going to please everybody. It's just never.
No, that's true. I have a funny story about Joe Abercrombie, actually. So I met him once. He was this was back in 2014. I think Half a King had just come out with something.
Okay.
And I would at that time go to author signings even if I didn't know who the author was.
Nice.
And I kind of wanted to like support them because sometimes I would say like an author and like there would be no one there, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I would feel really bad about it. So I would try to go to author signings just so they didn't feel alone.
That's so nice.
So I did that with Joe Abercrombie. I didn't need to because there was lots of people there. So but it was fine. But I went up to him anyway and I was like, Joe, like I love your books. Like you've inspired me to be a writer as well. Obviously didn't because I've never read a book you ever read, written it even. But like, I would lie to author's face all the time. I met Sarah J. Maas as well the same year. Air of Fire came out. And I came up to her and I was like, Sarah J. Maas, I love your writing so much. Like, you've inspired me to write. I tell this to every author. You've inspired me to write and all this. And I was like, I mean, can I have a hug? And she was like, yes, of course. And like, she gave me a hug and everything. But that was in my lying to authors' faces era. And so like hilarious. That, I just feel like that was like a little bit of a funny story because I don't think I have that Joe Abercrombie book anymore. Like it was signed, it was personalized and everything. And I don't have it anymore. And I'm kicking myself because I think I would like Joe Abercrombie. I think because
you would.
Yeah, my friend Becca, she does Catch Up Book Club. She did Joe Abercrombie. I think last year, First Law. First Law. That's the one. She did that. And I think I would have enjoyed it. Like a lot of people
I
did end up
definitely think
enjoying.
you would. It's got the
Yeah.
perfect level of sass and character work that I think you would probably really enjoy it. It's just
Mm,
I don't think there's any author, and I've said this repeatedly, so people that have been here before, I'm sorry, but I think he does the best inner monologue of any
mm,
author. It is just so distinctive and so fluid throughout the story that it's
nice.
perfect. And it is the
Mhm.
one series that I will always tell people, I'm like, listen to the audiobook. Do not read it, listen to the
Okay.
audiobook. Because Stephen Pacey is so incredible that he sounds like a whole cast of people. And
Wow.
he's just one person. And it is one of those scenarios where I read the first two books physically and then I listened to the third one. And
Mm,
it's one of those things as we're reading, we obviously ascribe a sound, a voice, a cadence to the characters that we come to know.
mhm.
He blew my mind with this one
Really?
little thing that he added to this character. And I was like, why didn't I think to do that? Like,
Oh,
why didn't I think to do that? And I paused the book because I was like, oh my God, this is like groundbreaking. This is brilliant. I don't know why I didn't think of this. And
mm,
he just continued to do that throughout the remainder of the series for me. It was just so, so well done. And the thing that's really great about that one is it's three trilogies basically. There's two cohesive trilogies with book one, book two, book three, and then there's three standalones that kind of bridge the two series. But a character when he starts talking if you listen to all the audiobooks and you're like, oh my
mm.
God, so and so's here, like before you really put the pieces together
I
because you
love that.
recognize the voice. So
Mhm.
it's amazing.
It's almost like watching a TV show. Like you
Yeah,
hear a character's voice and you're like, no way, kind of thing. And that
exactly.
sounds
And you get so
amazing.
excited. Exactly. Like I was listening to it one time. So my husband is also a Joe Abercrombie fan and has read the first trilogy and the standalones, but hasn't read the last trilogy yet. And I was listening
Okay.
to the last trilogy in May or so, and I had my earbuds in, and I was in the kitchen, and I was prepping dinner, and I was like, and I got so
Yeah.
excited, and I
I
looked at him, and I
love
was like,
that.
I would love to tell you this right now, but I just can't.
Oh my gosh.
I was so excited for him to read it.
I don't think I've ever had that kind of experience with an audiobook before. Like
It
this,
was
this
so good.
excites me. Like that
Yeah,
sounds amazing. But
it's
what
incredible.
I would do, because I like to read physically and listen to the audiobook at the same time. I like to
Mhm.
immerse myself.
Yeah.
It is that Alan from Library of
Alexandria, yeah.
Alexandria.
He's
Yeah,
now an
yeah.
audiobook narrator for The Way of a Dan.
Yeah, and I haven't read the Way of Dance series yet. I really want to, but I think Broken Binding are doing editions for
They
them. Did you
are.
announce that
Yeah,
yet?
I just got
So
the email with that today or yesterday. I just
you
checked it
you
today.
wait, is it on sale? Yeah, or was it like an early
It might
access?
be, or it's like books that are coming up and going on sale. I think they
Okay.
comboed it to get your attention.
I was gonna say as long as it's not like early access yet, because I do want to get the Broken
Yeah.
Binding editions and read them for the first time.
Mhm.
But I love listening to the audiobook and read physically at the
Same.
very same time. Like
I used to
it's
hate
my
it.
favorite thing.
I
Yeah,
used
me
to hate
too.
it, but now I love
Me
it so
too.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, because I would be like, "Can you like audiobook narrator stop making doing this voice? I hate it." You know what
Right?
I mean? Like, it's like
Exactly.
this is not how they sound. But
Exactly.
I've learned to just go with the flow, and now I concentrate way better,
Yeah.
especially with fantasy. I was so scared of reading like epic fantasy, high
Yeah.
fantasy, any of that until I started doing both of them at the same time. It was a game
Yeah.
changer,
I
life changing.
found Completely agree. Initially, when I started listening to audiobooks, the first one I listened to really was the First Law audiobook. And I
Mm.
found that starting midway through a series, that was really helpful because I already knew the names of the characters, the places, all of that kind of stuff. So I was like, maybe I just don't do book ones on audio and then I
Mm.
jump in on book two. And then, of course, I got really brave because, it was boldness that made me decide I wanted to start on a book one. And I was like, you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to immersion read. And
Ah,
that for me is really what solidified the deal because I was able to see the way that names were spelled and then place names. And that for me is really what made the difference. And I found that I actually really enjoyed it. And for me, it sounds so ridiculous because it just does. But I I am one of the people that has an inner monologue. I know that not everyone has that. Like my husband doesn't have one. I have one. My head is never quiet. Like it's never ever
yeah,
quiet.
same, same.
And I was diagnosed with ADD this year. It made perfect sense. And audiobooks are the only time that my brain actually goes quiet because I am focusing so hard on listening. And it for me has been such a beautiful gift because I'm like, oh my God, this is what peace feels like. Oh,
yeah, this is what like immerse myself in this story feels like, you know, like
yes.
because I'm the exact same as you, and I didn't understand what it was about me that I couldn't just concentrate. And
Mm-hmm.
I would read so much and I would take in so little. And
Yeah.
I still like loved like the act of reading and doing the reading and stuff.
Yeah.
But I genuinely feel like had I known like 4 or 5 years ago when I really started to read again,
Sure.
you know, it would have changed my perspective on reading so much. But
Mm-hmm.
now, like now that I kind of like figured out what to do and like how to help myself with that reading, like you, it's like, oh, like it just felt like a whole new world had opened up to me. It was like I was reading for the very first time. It was
Right.
great. And also I just saw, so it went on sale on the 17th. It's currently in my basket. Like I didn't realize it was already on sale. I have the emails, but I get like 15 emails from different, like I get like
Oh,
Lumicrate,
so
Fairy
many.
Loop, Broken
Yeah.
Binding, Ebony. I get so many, so I always miss it. But yeah, it's in my shopping cart right now
Mm-hmm.
on Broken Binding.
Do
I
you
didn't
have
realize
a
it was there.
membership to any of
Mhm.
the subscriptions? Which subscriptions do you use? Which do
Oh,
you love? Which would you tell people like, yes, absolutely do this one?
look, okay, so the question should be, what do you not have, Gavin? Because I feel like I have every, I feel like
Okay,
I
we'll
have,
limit it to which are your favorites that you think
which are
people
my
should
favorite?
definitely get on?
Well, I do love the Broken Binding. They're probably my favorite,
Yeah.
but that's probably because like I feel like I've moved into reading more adult fantasy and stuff like now. So I love the editions of theirs, and I'll say like Lauren, like I play the movie in my head. Like I can literally play the movie in my head as I'm like reading. I can play it.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it all. But the trouble is, my mind. I'll start thinking about, oh, what can I have for dinner? You know, like and then
Yeah.
that'll just all it'll all fade. But anyway, sorry. Going back to yeah, Broken Binding. I love their edition so much. Like I love it. I love so I'm subscribed to them. Fairy Loot are like probably like up there as well because I love some of the ones that they sell.
Some are so pretty. Oh,
You
like
know,
I have
the
been
house
on
moving.
these wait lists forever
Okay.
and I'm just waiting.
I okay. I was on the Romantasy waitlist for Fairy Loot
Yeah.
for like a year and a half, and
Yeah.
I only just got the invite after like a year and a half.
Yeah. I'm
But
still
I think
waiting.
it's also different because like I'm UK, so they have like
They do, yeah.
the different like wait lists only. So I think it's
Mhm.
probably quicker maybe for the
Yeah.
UK than so
I don't
Fairy
know.
also I love some of the standalone ones they do, like House Moving Castle and Kiki's Delivery Service, like they were
Mhm.
doing. But I also have a Lumicrate. I have Evernight, which is the horror one. I
Yep.
have the Abominable Book Box. I don't know if you know that one.
I don't know that one.
That's also a horror one. They send like a
Okay.
used horror book,
Oh,
a new
cool.
horror book, and like a novella. It could be like a sci-fi horror or something. But
Yeah.
it's all pretty much horror. I think that's no. There's got to be more, but I've forgotten them now. I really need cut down. I need cut down because the amount
Yeah.
of times I'll get like money taken out of my account, I'm like, what was that for? Why? Like, and then the amount of times I never end up reading the books anyway. Like, I get so many Fairy books, and
Yeah.
I probably read 5 of them, and I've been getting Fairy for like
Mm.
what, like for 5 years now, maybe.
Okay. You can send
So
them my way. I'll read them.
okay. Okay. Literally, if I when I do an unhaul, I will give you first dibs on all of
Please.
the special editions.
I'll take it.
First dibs.
I'll take it. There's been a few that I've really wanted to buy. And of course, it's one of those things that as soon as I want them, I look it up and they're listed for like $600. And I'm like, no, not that much.
Mm.
I would like it, but for a reasonable price. To
Oh,
answer, but go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say like, some people do ridiculous prices. So
No.
I have the Crescent City tour editions. Like there were
Mhm.
tour editions of the first and second book. I
Yeah.
got both of them. People are selling them for like £500 each, which is about like
I know.
$700. Like what?
Well, yeah,
What?
and then if you look up the, original Throne of Glass covers and the
Mm.
original ACOTAR covers, like, those are
Oh yeah,
selling for hundreds of dollars.
really?
Yeah. The Throne of Glass hardcover ones, I've seen go from anywhere between $400 to $2,000 for the set.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
it's nuts. Yeah, it's a lot. Um, Yes, guys, not everyone has an inner monologue, which was shocking to me too when I found this out.
Yeah. Me too. I was like, what, people actually have peace? Like, people
Yeah,
actually don't.
yeah. I said
Blew
this
my
to my
mind.
husband. I was like, "What do you mean you don't hear that?" And he's like, "No, I don't." And I was like, "Then how do you think?"
Yeah.
Like, just like what? And then this is exactly it. He thinks in images rather than an inner
Okay.
monologue. I was like, that seems odd, But he's like,
That
yours
is.
sounds exhausting. I was like, it is.
It is. Literally, those voices, they need to shut up.
Oh my
Especially
God.
when we're trying to
Sometimes
get to sleep.
they've
When we're
got a
trying to
lot to say when you're going to bed.
get
Oh man.
and a lot of useless stuff too. I'm like, why am I thinking about that at
Oh
this
my
time of
gosh.
night? Like, that
I
happened like
was
15 years ago.
Right? I know. And you're just like, why is this resurfacing now? Like, why is this important? But like I was saying to my husband earlier today, every day I get in the shower and it's like I
Mhm.
have the most genius thought for writing. And I'm like, oh, that's gonna be great. The second I step out of the shower, it's gone. Like every
Oh,
single day. And I'm like,
yeah.
this inner monologue thing is not like beneficial all the time. Sometimes
You know what?
it's just
It's a blessing and a curse. It really is.
exactly. Simon is
Mm.
saying, curious why Gavin likes horror and if Laura has tried much horror. It's not my genre, but I'm always curious why people enjoy things. You go
Me
ahead.
too. Well, I love books that, or like films, anything that engages me, and I feel like horror is probably one of the most engaging
Huh.
forms of storytelling,
Okay.
because I mean, obviously, like, so many genres do this as well, but for me, I have more of a reaction to horror
Mhm.
because it can either gross me out, it can scare me. I can be reading a book that scares me so much I can't, like, I don't know where to go, and I can't move, or or I'm scared to be in my own house. And it's
Mhm.
those kinds of feelings that I read for. Like, I read to
Hmm.
feel, I read to experience, and yeah, I love like how exciting it can be. I love
Yeah.
the way it makes me feel sometimes. It's like a safe horror. Like, these are things I would not want to happen,
Right.
but I feel safer reading it, but even then I still get scared. So I feel like some of it can be like some of the most, yeah, like, exciting stories, because there's
Mhm.
stakes, there's tension, there's suspense, and I eat that up. And one of the things I didn't think I would really love was, like, say for instance, Stephen King. And I
Mhm.
have been really enjoying Stephen King, and that's like a kind of different kind of horror. And I didn't realize you could have so much different varieties of
Oh
horror.
yeah.
It's such a slippery slope. So I'm still discovering what I like in horror to this day, because
Mhm.
I realize I'm not really the biggest fan of cosmic horror, but
Okay.
that's probably because I haven't read enough good cosmic horror yet. So I'm not going to write off that entire genre or
Genre.
anything.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that's probably why. And a lot of my favorite films as well are like horror films, like Scream.
Oh,
I, I
interesting.
love I love stuff like that. Even though I didn't as a kid. Like, when I was a kid, I watched Jaws when I was maybe like 6 or 7, and it
Yeah.
scared me. Like, I had nightmares for weeks. I was peeing the bed. Like,
Oh
I thought that the
no.
shark would get me in the bath. Like, I was so scared. I
Yeah.
even cried. Like, do you know Scary Movie, the parody?
Oh yes.
I watched that when I was 8 years old, and I cried at that too. Even though it's a funny film, I still cried because people were dying, and stuff like that. I was like, it was traumatizing.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why I ended up loving horror, considering how
Yeah.
scared of it I was as a kid.
That's
I don't I
interesting.
don't I don't get it. But also, to answer Slay, I read Boys in the Valley a few months ago and I loved it.
Hmm.
I thought it was great. It was very atmospheric. And I read it for Summerween, and it was just such a fun time. And it was great. I loved it.
That's
So yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Horror is not my genre,
Mm,
specifically because any psychological horror freaks me
mm,
out. Like, it's one of
mm,
those things that I am pretty okay with gore. Like, that doesn't really
mm.
bother me a whole lot, or body horror in general. I'm like, okay, whatever. But
Okay.
as soon as I'm like, that could happen,
Mm,
I'm freaked out and I
mm,
do not like it. For me, feeling scared is a feeling and emotion that I just do not relish and do not enjoy. So
mm.
I get why people like it and connect to it, but I'm just always like, I'm good, I'm good. Which is interesting though, because in my writers group, there's a few of us, and one of us writes horror. And when we started the group, he said to me, he's like, "Are you going to be okay?" And I was like, as long as we're not dealing with like things that could plausibly happen, I feel like I'll be fine. And it's been all body horror and like more fantasy
Okay.
horror. And I've actually really enjoyed that. So that for me has been fine.
Cool.
And it was interesting because I read The Spear Cuts Through Water earlier this
Okay.
year. And there's some pretty descriptive gore and gruesome scenes in that book. And I was like, this is fine. You know, like I was so unfazed by that, where other people were like, oh, I DNF'd it at that point. And I was like, okay, maybe I don't mind aspects of horror
Yeah.
and subgenres of horror. But yes, any
Yeah.
psychological horror, I'm like,
Oh.
no, done for forever.
I do wonder if you would like Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell. If you kind of like the fantasy horror and you don't mind body horror, like
Mhm,
nothing in Someone You Can Build a Nest In, I think is plausible because it's more
mhm.
like the fantasy horror. It's like a creature who, you know, is like a monster, eats people. She falls in love with a human woman
Okay.
and she wants to, like, the way of like continuing her line is like consuming her and eating her and having her babies kind of thing. Like that's how she does it. But that isn't exactly what happens or anything like that. But it's like it's a romance fantasy horror between a monster and a human
Huh.
woman. It's amazing. It's so good. It's like one of my favorite books of the year so far. That is fantasy horror romance. So I don't know if
What's the name of
maybe
this?
Someone You Can Build a Nest In,
Okay, I'm
which
gonna.
is a freaky title. Like build a nest in, someone can
That's a
build a nest.
pretty great title, honestly.
I
Like,
love it.
I
I do
really
love
like
it,
that
but
title. Yeah.
it's creepy though as well. But I feel like it's probably
Yeah.
something that you could handle because it's not. I don't think it's plausible at all. I don't
Mhm.
think it's plausible at all. But it's a great book. And I was gonna ask another question. Oh yeah, so like there's also a genre of extreme horror,
Mm.
and I've only read a couple of books in that genre,
Yeah.
and I don't. I well maybe three or four. In some of it, I have liked, but I don't think it's my thing.
Mhm.
And it's one of those, I think it's one of those genres that I don't know quite. This might be like so blasphemous. I don't know if it quite has a place in
Mm.
literature some of the time
Yeah.
because of the things that certain authors do in these extreme horror books.
Yeah.
But at the same time, literature is literature, and like people write what they want to write and stuff. But yeah, so would you ever consider an extreme horror book if it was just like body horror? Well, I should have done that.
I don't know. I don't know because historically, like, really, the only ones that I've read have been my friend's novels that he's written, which
Mhm.
have dealt with deeper themes of
Okay.
racism. Like, that's
Okay.
really been the prominent reason for
Mm.
the body horror is that there is racism.
Yeah.
And but of course, like, it takes place in a fantasy world, so we're dealing with like orcs and elves and things like that. So I already feel like I have my foot in the door because it has that fantasy element. So that for me is probably my gateway drug. If there's a fantasy element, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm grounded a little bit.
Mhm.
But if that's not there, probably no.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I feel like there has to be that sliver of the initial connection,
Mhm.
at least. I love
Okay.
fantasies. That's my thing.
Mm. And I do love your name change as well, though. By the way, like I
Thank
love the
you.
rebrand. I think it's great. I do love the name Fantasy Wash. It's
Thank
genius,
you.
brilliant. But I love like the fact that you're taking your identity and you
Yeah.
like that. You're like kind of you're making that your like your brand, your face, and everything. So
Yeah,
I love the
it's
change.
it's weird, and YouTube punished me when I did
Mm,
it. It was really strange because I had changed my handle, and I was watching Chatting with Nuts,
mm,
and I was chatting in the chat, and then all of a sudden I was tagging people to respond to comments, and no one was answering me, and I was like, "Well, this is weird." And then I hopped over into another live and I was trying to chat to people and no one was answering me. And I was like, what is happening here? So I went into my Discord and I asked people that I actively knew were in the chat. I was like, can anyone see me? Like, what is happening? And they were like, no,
yeah.
you're not there. And I was like, I am here. So they
What?
basically didn't allow me to comment in live streams for like a few days. And I don't know why that happened, but it was like multiple live streams. I checked in on different platforms. Joanna from Joanna Reads, she sent me a link to a live stream that she knew was happening the next day. She's like, we'll both log in and see if I can see your comments. Couldn't see me. And I was like, okay, either I've been like shadow banned and I don't know what's going on, or YouTube is just taking its time to settle into me not being fantasy wash anymore. I was like, I don't know. It feels like a betrayal. But,
Can you imagine if everyone was just like playing one big prank on you and just, like
left?
Wait, just don't reply.
Right?
Just don't reply. Well, actually, a little trick to know if your message went through is, on the chat where it says like at the top live chat and top chat, if you just toggle between them, it will show whether your message went through.
Well, I did that. And I wasn't,
well?
yeah, I did that. And I wasn't showing. Well, that was the thing that was so weird, because I did show up to a point and then it just stopped. And I was like, what is happening? What is happening? And I messaged Jimmy after and I was like, I couldn't chat in your show, but it was a really good chat. And he's like, I didn't ban you, I promise. I was like, well, apparently YouTube did, so it's fine. So I don't really know.
God.
Oh man. But yeah.
Well, that sucks, but it's back to normal now, right?
It is, yeah, it is, thankfully, which is really nice, because I do love going into watching people with their live streams and things like that, and like engaging with people as it's happening. So yeah, I was pretty bummed that I was like, oh well, this was a mistake. So it was that, or all the profanity cleaned it up. Or yes, I'm
obviously
full of profanity here. That's something. Okay, so do you find that you have to monitor yourself in which the way you speak on YouTube a lot of the time? Because I am generally a much more profane person, and I'm very much cleaned up my my vernacular for the internet.
Oh gosh. Well, I love that vernacular. That's a word I never use, but I love that word. I actually still say whatever I want on YouTube, which I know I shouldn't. I probably shouldn't. It's probably, I've shot myself in the foot kind of thing. Maggie knows. Because I make this my full-time job. This is my full-time job now. Like YouTube is full-time for me. So I should be more mindful of what I say and what I talk about. But I will literally in a live show, I'll be in a live show of, hundreds of people, and I will say the things that I should not be saying, like when it comes to.
So freeing though.
It is, but at the same time, I'll have like limited ads comes up, or I'll get, I remember I got to monetize for 3 months one time, like back in 2020, got to monetize for 3 months because I did a video. It was a Mamma Mia video where I put myself into Mamma Mia, but it was a reading vlog. But I was talking about like my past love life. And I was saying, like, I didn't hold myself back. I was talking details and everything. And I got to monetize for 3 months. And even then, I still, every now and then, I'll drop a little nugget of information that people are like, I wish I didn't know that. I really wish I did not know that.
Yeah.
Honestly, the things people know about me on the internet, too much. Too much.
I am a cross between those where, like, in vlogs, I feel that I'm a bit more my regular candor, but still it's very censored and monitored as to how much I want people to know about me, and like the general overall tone of what the channel was when it started. Because when I started initially, I just thought I'll just do book reviews. Like that was kind of my goal. And I kind of made it a point early on that I was like, I'm not going to get on and rag about a book that I don't like. I'm just not going to waste my time talking about it. If people care and want to ask me on the side, I'll give them my opinion, but fine. And then I started having live streams and I was like, oh yeah, I have this like non-swearing channel now. I was like, that's fucking weird, and it just became a whole thing, and I was like, I don't like it. So yeah, I mean, for a good long while, I was like, I want it to be fine if you have your kid like in the background, but I got to the point I was like, I don't care. So it's been interesting kind of shifting gears where I'm like, okay, this is now my author channel, like my author name, my face is this. So it's
can I turn the tables a little bit on this chat, because I want to ask you, how are you moving forward in terms of reviews? Like, do you as an author feel like you have to hold back with reviews, or do you still feel like you can say whether you love or hate a book and
I
not have
am
a
not
sense of it?
saying whether or not I hated a book.
Okay.
Which, to be fair, like there have been very few times that I've actively come on and said that. The most recent, and if
Mm.
people have followed, I hated Dark Age by Pierce Brown with a fiery passion in my soul this year. And I loved the original 3 so much. So like it's not that I don't like Pierce Brown as an author. It was that book specifically. But
Okay.
I have always taken the approach where I am much more critical about trad published books versus indie books because that's just a personal line that I drew for myself. Well before I thought that I was going to write anything. And since writing, I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to review books. It's just not going to be what I do. So really, it's kind of been a shift where when I'm doing my monthly wrap up, I think people can generally tell if I'm a bit more enthusiastic about a certain book, but I'm generally just trying to give you the description of what the book is and if you might like it for those reasons. But I'm also finding that I'm a bit more picky about what I'm reading. So I'm not reading a ton of stuff that I'm not liking at the same time, like if that makes sense. So
Yeah, true.
it does make it more complicated, though. It definitely does make it more complicated. Like on Goodreads, I've stopped reviewing things. I just mark that I've read it and I move on. Like if something really resonates with me and I'm like, it's phenomenal, I'll mark it as 5 stars. But beyond that, I'm like, I think we're in murky territory. I know some authors still continue to do that, and I'm happy for them to do that. I don't feel comfortable doing it, and that's just a thing for
Best
me.
preference, yeah.
Yeah,
And as we say it before as well, like when you don't specifically love a book, like there's always something that you know someone will like about a book. So as you say, like you'll still talk about the description of the book and you give some pointers, like maybe why you should read it in case you do want to read it, sort of thing. So there's like always something that you can do around it. Because like say when I used to be a bookseller for Waterstones, so I had to be careful about what I said online. And because they were watching my channel. Like, I got in trouble once. I got in trouble once when I worked at Waterstones because I said something in a vlog I should not have said.
Really?
And so I got well, for a couple of reasons. I'm fun and fancy free. I was fun and fancy free. But yeah, well, one of the things I complained about was I got an author agreed to come in, and I got an author and everything to come in, and a colleague cancelled it behind my back and didn't tell me. So on the day the author was supposed to come in, I was all like, "Yay, the author's coming in," and stuff. And I found out on the day that they weren't coming because a colleague cancelled it. So I was complaining about that. But I also I didn't give a very favorable review to one of the Waterstones books of a month. And they weren't really the happiest with that. So I had to be a little bit more careful about what I said about books when I was Waterstones bookseller. But I could still talk about like, oh, I think you will love this book because ... And it was the same when I did it in person. Like, so if someone came up to me and they wanted recommendations for books, like a parent wants a recommendation for a child, for instance, and I read a book, maybe I didn't love it, but I thought, oh, like your child will like this because it has X, Y, and Z, you know? So I totally get it. I totally get it.
Yeah. Simon, thank you so much. Yes, I will not be getting a John Gwynn blurb. I read Malice earlier this year and it did not. Not. So, but that's
you can't tell me that because I'm literally okay. So you know how I mentioned the Catch Up Book Club before?
Yep.
Becca, my friend, we're doing John Gwynn. Like I'm coming back to the book club to do Malice, that series. You can't tell me.
I wish you so much luck. But at the same time, too, you liked Eye of the World, so you will probably like Malice. This is not to say that I will not read more John Gwynn, because I will. I want to try the Bloodsworn trilogy, and I will at some point. But I'm also a very firm, and also thank you very much, Simon. But I am a firm believer that just because one book by an author doesn't work for you doesn't mean necessarily that author doesn't work for you. And I've had a few instances of that this year where it was really interesting in that I read a contemporary romance author. I read Abby Jimenez, and I read her Part of Your World trilogy, which I liked. I thought it was fine. And then I went and I read an earlier book of hers, which I hated. I will actively say that I hated this book because it dealt with infertility, which I'm an IVF mom. So infertility is something that is very close to my heart. And basically her solution for infertility was love. And I was like, no. So it was one of those things that like it personally for me was like, this is never gonna be a thing that's gonna work. But I really did like the earlier trilogy. And had I been a flipped thing where had I read the Friend Zone first, I don't know if I ever would have gone on and read more of her books, but it's interesting. I was like, this is I will read more of her stuff. And I feel like it's another case of evolving as an author and just seeing how much she's changed and honed her craft. And I really did like her other books. So, I mean, have you ever really had that with an author where you've read one thing and you're like, not for me, and you've gone to another series and you're like, yes.
Oh, I actually don't know if I have. But that's a really good question. I've gone the opposite route. I've done like I used to love them, and now I kind of don't really like in terms of like Grady Hendrix, for instance. I used to love like his earlier stuff, and then not so much recently. But I don't really know of like an example of the reverse. But I totally get it. Like especially when you're talking about like unrealistic solutions to real life problems like that. Like I have such a problem with middle grade books. Like I don't really read a whole lot of middle grade anymore, but like there would be times when love would bring back a dead parent, for instance, or things like that.
Yeah. No.
And when you have like children reading this who might have lost a parent, and you know the kind of like unrealistic expectations, and obviously like if it's like fantasy and stuff, but like a lot of the times it would be in a way that it would be the final solution, and
it's harmful.
Yeah, and I'm just not really a fan of that. I feel like for different things, it just
Agreed.
you do have to be like really careful. So I agree with the IVF and all of that too. Like if it's like something that is like so like personal to so many people, you have to be careful with that. So I get it, but I would have to like think of. Oh, actually, I do have an example for an author I kind of gave up. So Peter Swanson, he wrote 9 Lives, which is a thriller. Hated it. It's like one of the worst books I read because, well, for one, like he spoils other thriller books in it. Like he does so many like doesn't give a spoiler warning or anything. He'll spoil it. It was like a totally like a and then there were none by Agatha Christie. Total rip off of it. Didn't like it. Twist didn't make sense. The whole book didn't make sense. I hated it. And then I read, like, because I did a vlog 2 years ago where I was like, okay, reading authors I didn't like, but giving them a second chance kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I ended up reading The Kind Worth Saving. No, The Kind Worth Killing. The Kind Worth Killing. And I loved it. I thought it was great. And I thought it was so clever, and like the twists were great. And so I was like, and that was like one of his first ones as well. And like 9 Lives was a recent one. That was one of his first ones. I loved it. And then I read the sequel to The Kind Worth Killing called The Kind Worth Saving earlier this year. And again, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm so with you. Like I would not want to write an author off completely unless they personally attacked me as a person. Like I will not like unless they turn out to be like Satan, like the author turns out to be Satan. Like unless they turn out to be like a really like, awful author or whatever, like then I probably wouldn't write an author off on like writing ability alone. Because everyone improves. Like
they should. Right? That's the point.
For example, like it's the same as like us as like doing like videos and doing, like booktube and stuff. Like if people wrote me off after like my first couple of videos and never check me out again because my first videos were terrible, I would be so upset. I would be so upset by that. And so I don't want to do that to other people because people can improve. I think there was a classic fantasy author. Is it like Ursula K. Le Guin? Earthsea. I think people said like she improves or something like in the series or something. So I would like to give that series another go. I read the first couple and I wasn't the biggest fan, but people said it gets better and stuff. And I think as well, I wasn't that well versed in fantasy, especially like classic fantasy. So I feel like maybe I read it the wrong time. Now I feel like I'm really getting there. You know, I read the Lord of the Rings earlier this year, and I've been reading some like bigger fantasies. I feel very proud of myself.
Okay, what bigger fantasies have you been reading? I need to know.
So other than The Eye of the World, well, I say like bigger fantasy. So like say I read The Will of the Many, although I guess that's not really.
It's sci-fi fantasy.
I loved it. I loved that
I loved
so
it too.
much.
Yeah.
I read, what else did I read? that's like bigger. What did I read recently? I literally have my spreadsheet open. I have read 335 books this year, so I'm like, I
Gavin,
know,
that
I
is
know, but to be fair, 51 of those are like those tiny little Fear Street books. So I've read a lot of
that is so many. Oh my gosh.
The Stand. I read The Stand.
Okay.
The Reformatory is more like paranormal horror, I guess. Okay, so maybe I haven't read that much like bigger fantasy than I thought I'd read more. Actually, I thought I'd read more, but definitely like Lord of the Rings. I've been really trying to branch out a little bit, and because it was always like the most intimidating genre for me. I thought I would be so
Fantasy-wise?
confused. Yeah, like
Interesting. Okay.
like epic fantasy. Like I can
Yeah.
handle like middle grade fantasy, young adult fantasy. But
Yeah.
when it comes to adult fantasy, sometimes I think it just goes right over
Right
my
over your
head
head. Yeah.
sometimes, and I get like confused and I don't know where I am in the story. But yeah, like say The Will of the Many and Eye of the World and Lord of the Rings has just like really changed my opinion on it.
Yeah.
That I can read and not be confused. Obviously, like Sarah J. Maas, like those books were massive as well. But
Yes.
the book that wouldn't burn, I read earlier this year as
Okay.
well.
I haven't read that one
Uh,
yet. It's been on my list since it came out. Like it's right on my shelves, but yeah, I
oh,
just haven't
I
gotten to
like
it.
it. No, I like that as well, but I feel like I need to read more. I need to read more. I feel so bad. I was kind of nervous coming on here as well because I know you're doing really
Aw,
well. I thought like what if like I have nothing to add? Like, what if I have nothing to say in terms
no.
of like fantasy and stuff? Because that's also another thing. Like I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but I think it's okay. Jimmy's not here. I don't think so. Like I think I'm doing Chat with Nuts in a couple of weeks.
Oh, are you?
And yeah, but I'm terrified because I barely read that much fantasy as well. Like there's not much. I
Jimmy
did read a
is
song.
so well versed, honestly. Like he
Well,
is
yeah,
very well versed.
it really is, and I have watched a lot of Chapman Nuts, so like, I totally know, but at the same time, I'm like, but me, I'm gonna contribute nothing. I'm gonna be awful. Like the same with tonight, I was like, I want to contribute nothing, but no, it's fine. But yeah, I considering how much I love Lord of the Rings earlier this year,
Yeah.
I really do want to branch out and read a lot more of the epic and fantasy. That's why I got Broken Binding because that's helping at the same
Yeah.
time. I want to read Is it Blood Over Brighthaven that everyone like raves about as well. Is
I'm
that
not sure about that one.
that might not even be the right name.
I'm not sure about that one, but
No, no, I know, I remember now. Is it the Sword of Kagan? Sorry, the Sword of Kagan. That's what.
I haven't read that one yet, but I really do want to read it.
Mm,
Because it was an indie book. I still believe it is an indie book. I don't think it's
mm,
been republished, even though it has like a bunch of special editions that have been done for it. But yeah, it is one that I am eager to read. I will be curious to see where you kind of venture into with fantasy, because like everything else, there's so many subgenres. And I will say too, I was scared out of my fucking mind when I went on Chatting with Nuts. I was like, I have nothing to offer. I will sit here and I will make awkward faces for however long he allows this conversation to last. That was it.
I want to go back and watch it then. I want to go back and watch it. I want to see the pain in
Right?
your eyes then at the start. You're like,
Yeah, at the beginning, I'm like, hi, thanks for having me. This is really great. And I'm just like, am I smiling too much? Like, I feel like I'm smiling too much. Like, it's one of those things. But no, I had a really good time. And also, I just feel like when you have these types of conversations with people, you really do realize that even though everyone generally has a preferred genre, that we've all read stuff outside of our preferred genre, right? Like this year it was because of Jimmy, but he recommended The Remains of the Day for me, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. I ended up really enjoying it. I was like, Stevens needs a fucking vacation more than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. But, it was an interesting read, and like I've tried to push myself boundary wise and subgenre and genre wise this year in ways that I haven't previously. Last year was my year of Brandon Sanderson. I read almost all of the Cosmere last year, and had a really great time with it. And then this year, I started my romantasy journey at the beginning of the year, and I was like, this is great. I am here for this. I'm having a great time, which then led into contemporary romance. And it's just been like this slow evolution of new authors, new experiences, new exposure. And I think it can be a slow development, but a fun one nonetheless. So if you take your time, that's fine. Like, that's totally fine.
But as you said before as well about like everyone kind of has a preferred genre as well. This is I don't know if I do, you know. This is why I have an identity crisis every year on BookTube. Because it gets to this time of year.
Yeah.
And it's when we start doing like our best books of the year and stuff like that. And that's when I'm like, I have no cohesive trajectory. Like I read so like all over the place. Like my reading is haphazard. What I do, because I do prioritize like vlogs over reading a lot of the times.
Sure.
So it's like I never understand myself or like what I'm supposed to like describe my channel or describe like my reading taste, because I never know myself. I generally don't know. And as someone said before, I need to read more Shrek romance. Like this is the kind of thing as well. Like I read Shrek romance. I read, you don't read Fluff. Sometimes I do.
I mean, you prefer genre as TV show novelizations, which is fine. Which is fine.
Speaking of, I just got some Smallville books. I don't know if anyone ever watched Smallville.
I didn't know that was even made into books. That is amazing.
Me neither. I literally found them on eBay not too long ago, and they came yesterday, I think. And now I've got some.
There you go. I know you're doing a Once Upon a Time, Once Upon a Time rewatch, and I know that those were made into like graphic novels at one point.
Oh, nice! So I need to get them. I will need to get them then.
There you go. I loved that show when it came out, by the way.
It was so good. And even rewatching the start of season 1 again, like season 1 was great. You know, like it does go downhill a little bit after that, but at the same time, oh my gosh, it just had such magic and charm at the start of it. And like great storytelling too. I love it.
I think I mean, like, spoiler alert, guys, this show was on several years ago. But for me, it would have been a better show had the what happens at the end of season 1 happened at the end of the series.
Yes, it happens too quickly.
It is too fast. It's too quick of a resolution. But I loved trying to guess every episode who people were. I was like, because I love fairy tales and mythology and folklore. So I was like, who are you? Like, I would get so excited. And I remember at one point, because I watched it with my mom, and I would say to her, I was like, I think that's Frankenstein. And I was like, I don't know what Frankenstein's doing in a Disney show, but I'm here for it. You know, like I am here for this. Like it was just all of these weird connections and stuff, and I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, they would throw anything in there, and they would just hope it would land. And it did get a little bit too. It did a lot of the times, especially in the early days. It did go a little bit off the rails. I think I stopped watching in season 5. And there were like 7 seasons.
I didn't watch the last season. I watched like 3 episodes, and I was like, no.
Yeah, it kind of got too far beyond the initial premise, I think. And this is the same for any book series or like anything I watch. If it goes too far beyond the original premise, I'm not going to end up enjoying it. So, segueing back to the Wicked books, one of the main appeals of this series is the fact that it's the Wicked Witch of the West, and it's like her story. But then these books are about totally different characters. So like, why? Like that isn't the premise. That isn't why I'm reading this story for. So as soon as anything goes beyond its initial premise, I start to lose interest.
Becky, it's Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that. It's interesting because, I mean, this is like a little segue, but my book that I wrote is a first-person narrative, and then book 2 is a multi-POV book.
Ooh,
and I'm like, I hope people care still.
No, like, as long as it like has that initial story,
it does.
Like,
yeah.
Like it is, you know, like whatever you built the first book off, because I'm not sure exactly everything. I'm excited to find out, but like all of that. But like, say for this, it is literally the fact that this is the Wicked Witch of the West story.
Yeah, it should be like a continuation.
It should be. Yes, but if you're only going to do one book and then the rest of them like people who we don't really know or care about, like then, but like I feel like I don't mind like when a book series has like different POVs or like a different character in a different one, as long as we still have that initial promise of the premise in there.
the
you know?
connection to the
Yeah.
point. Exactly.
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah,
get
don't
that.
be yeah, as long as like not totally random, because then I'm like, it's so like the same with Once Upon a Time. As soon as it stopped being like trying to find out, like who the fairy tale characters are or like how it relates to the main character and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like that's when it just goes a little bit too off the walls. Like that's when it,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, hopefully that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I'll be curious though what you think when you get to those later seasons, and if you stick it through this time, you'll just be like,
I'm gonna have to stick it through because I
Mhm.
promised Patreon. I'm doing it on Patreon, and we're doing 3 episodes a week. We did Charmed before. That's like
Okay,
my favorite show of all time. So we
nice.
did Charmed. That lasted a year and a bit because we started
Okay.
July 2023 and we ended it in October 2024. So it was like a year and a few months.
Mhm.
This one, it should be ending next December, which is a commitment. It's like a
That
long
is a
time.
commitment.
Yeah, but we have to do it. Like we've signed up for it, and I can't get out of it now. So I'm
Yep,
definitely
you
going to
committed.
finish the series.
You're
I
committed,
I
yeah.
can't. I'm committed.
So, Charmed is your favorite show of all time?
Yes, it is. I mean, again, that's
Right?
another series that kind of lost the vision of the initial vision because I always love a story about, like the initial premise is about three sisters who happen to be witches,
Yep.
not three witches who happen to be sisters. Like I
Yes.
love the sisterly bond. I love like how it informs them as women in their personal lives and
Yep.
but as sisters, like predominantly. And then it
Yes.
just kind of like loses its way in the later seasons. But yeah, Charmed is my favorite show. I love anything to do with witches.
Me too.
I've talked a lot about witches today because I obviously like Wicked and Charmed, but
That's okay.
literally I grew up like my very first foray into fantasy ever was The Worst Witch by Jill Murphy. I don't know if you
Oh,
ever
nice.
read that. Like that was like
I have
oh
not,
that was
no.
oh so near and dear to my heart. It was made into a TV show that I would watch and
Okay.
I would always want to be because it was Mildred Hubble and she was she was like a good girl but like she was a terrible witch like she made bad things happen by accident
Yeah.
and like she was a student at Miss Cackle's Academy and everything would go wrong but she'd always save the day at the end.
Mhm.
So it was just so good but that's what started my love not just for fantasy but for witches. I
For
love
witches, yeah.
I love witches. I love the magic. I love the brooms and all of that. Just
I
oh,
love that.
yeah. So Charmed obviously had to become my favorite show ever because witches,
Yeah.
magic.
I think my first exposure was Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, because I was, oh God, how old was I now? I'm trying to think when the show premiered. I think it premiered in either 96 or 98. And
It was September 1996.
so
I
yeah,
remember because
96.
I'm a big fan.
So yeah, I love it too. But like, so I don't know how old you are, Gavin, but
Guess.
I'm 34. So
I'm 32. I'm 32. So
okay,
we're pretty much the same
we're
age.
pretty close.
Same age.
But I remember I came home from school and I
Mhm.
told my parents, I was like, apparently there's a new show on about these witches. And my parents were like, great, we'll watch it. And we sat down and we watched it. And it was the first season of Sabrina. And we all loved it. Like we all thought it was great. I mean, mind you, I was 6. So I was like, this is fantastic. But
Yeah.
it became a weekly tradition in our house to the point where we still every Halloween watch one of the Sabrina episodes and like
Ah.
stuff like that. Like it's a embedded in my familial culture, which I really enjoy. But I think that was probably my first exposure to being like, yes, I love witches.
Oh my god, I love that so much. I used to do the same thing pretty much, and I still every now and then watch like a Halloween episode, like every Halloween.
Mhm.
I love the one where the doll comes to life. Uh,
Yes. Oh,
I love that one. It's so funny.
it's such a
That
good one.
was
Yeah.
that was such a good one. But they did great Halloween episodes and
Mhm.
Christmas episodes as well.
Yes.
So me and my sister used to watch it together, and I was very young. I was like 5 or something.
Mhm.
And we used to get the magazine, like there was the Sabrina the Teenage Witch magazine,
Yep.
and we would get it, and it was just a
I
time, and it was
forgot about the
great.
magazine. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is like, yeah, that takes me back. The episode that we
Mhm.
watch every Halloween is a River of Candy Corn runs through it, which is the season 2
Mhm.
episode for Halloween, it was really fun.
A great episode as well. And so actually, Sabrina inspired me last year. So, do you remember the episode? I think it's like called Silent Movie, where they like do the
Yes.
whole like era, like the old era where they
Yeah.
can't talk, but it like comes on the screen and stuff.
Yeah.
I did that for a video last year where I recreated
Oh.
like a sort of like a silent movie kind of thing where I was like doing the whole dramatic movements, and then the rain would come on
Yeah,
the screen. I was inspired by Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
that's
I'm
amazing.
still inspired to this day, and I have like the books. I actually did a Sabrina the Teenage Witch reading vlog 2 years ago, and I recreated, like the theme tune, like the original theme tune. I was
Yes.
I did all of that. It was great.
I love that so much. What was I going to ask you? It's now like flown from my head. It might come back. We'll see.
Sorry.
To answer this, I have not read this yet, but I know that I should because I've been told by multiple people that I probably should.
I haven't either, but I do love T. Kingfisher. I've read a few T. Kingfisher books now, and I think I would enjoy it. It sounds right up my street.
Yeah, I do too. I will say, so it's funny you mentioned your favorite TV show because my husband asked me earlier tonight because we watch the same show pretty much with dinner every day, and that's Ted Lasso. And he was like, "Is this your favorite show?" I was like, "It probably is." Like, I love Ted Lasso. It came back to me. Sorry, this is my ADD brain in action live.
Okay.
So I don't know if you ever watched Jane the Virgin, but they also have like a silent film episode, and it is so good. That show also is incredible. Highly recommended to everybody.
I never watched it. I have heard of it though, but I never watched it.
It's so fun. I so love it and highly recommend. I haven't read tons, but I did read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches this fall for the first time, and I enjoyed it. So does that count?
Probably. I haven't. I know there's like the X-Hex, I think, is a witchy romance, I think. But I haven't. I don't think I have. And if I have, then it wasn't that memorable because I've forgotten about it. But I don't.
There you go.
Yeah. But I should. Considering how much I love witches, I really should.
I love that it was Friends. I really enjoyed Friends growing up. My parents hated it, but I watched it religiously.
Yeah. I never watched it when I was young. I ended up, I think I was a teenager the first time I watched Friends, and I got the DVD box set of all 10 seasons, and I just watched it all, and it was hilarious, and I loved it. But I've only ever seen the episodes like once. I've never seen them more than once, and my friends are obsessed, and they are constantly quoting it, and I'm like, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I just smile and wave. Smile and wave.
That sounds great, guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Do you find that you've had more exposure to American TV? Because the few times that I've been over to England, my husband and I love the game shows that you guys have so much. I'm like, British game shows are great. Specifically ones with Richard Osman. Like, those are our favorites.
He did Pointless, right? It was Pointless.
He did Pointless, and now he does House of Games, which we also really enjoyed. Yeah.
We are big on game shows. I don't have like live TV anymore. I did when I lived with my mum years ago, but I don't have it now. And we would watch The Chase every day, or
love The Chase.
Or we love a good general knowledge kind of game show kind of thing. So to answer the question, I was exposed to so many American TV shows, but I would seek them out because I would love them so much. So for instance, I would love Charmed and Ghost Whisperer were my initial foray into American television.
Yeah.
This is going back a little while, it's going back a little while. But the main one that got me really into American TV was Desperate Housewives. That was my favorite. Like after Charmed, it's my second favorite TV show ever.
That show's first season was incredible.
Impeccable. The best, probably it's like the best pilot episode of a show I've ever seen, I think.
It's so good.
Yeah, the mystery, everything, the drama, the comedy, stellar. I still love like season 3 and 4 and stuff. Like there's still like things to enjoy, but nothing touches that first season. Nothing. No. But this is funny. But I started watching Desperate Housewives, and then I became too obsessed. I would actually watch 40 different American TV shows a week, and because I live in the UK, I had to download things on those like very old like LimeWire and stuff. I used to have to like do that because like in the UK we would get TV shows like 5 or 6 months after America or something. And then I would watch like 40 different TV shows a week. And I was like, how did I ever have the time? How did I have the stamina? Like say for instance, if Glee aired on Tuesdays in America, I would download the episode on Wednesday. You know what I mean? It's like so
you were up to date.
Yeah, I was up to date and I was ahead of all of my British friends, and,
That's
and it was a great
hilarious.
time. It was a great time. Like, I haven't done that in years, so like nobody come for me. I don't. The thing is, though, I don't really watch TV anymore. I used to love
Yeah,
it so much. I don't watch it. I only
I'm the
watch it on
same.
Patreon now. Yeah, yeah.
I'm really the same.
I read. I film. I go to sleep. I read. I film. I go
Yep.
to sleep,
I
and I
read
edit.
and I write.
And I,
That's pretty much it.
yeah.
And like I find now I'm like I could watch TV or I can listen to an audiobook.
Mhm.
So I listen to an audiobook. I will say though, Josh and I, my husband, we have been watching through Gilmore Girls because he's never watched it. And I was like,
Yeah.
we have to change that. So that's been happening. But that and Ted Lasso really are like the two things. And
Mm.
and Great British Baking Show, of course, because like
Uh,
have to. Oh my
yes,
gosh.
that's like a British staple. That is something
It
you
is
have to
amazing.
watch.
It's my
Yeah.
favorite thing. And this season has been so impeccable. Oh, it's been so good. So yeah,
I haven't had a chance to watch it, I think, since 2021, because yeah, I moved
it's so
out
good.
from my mum's in 2021. So I lived on my own, and yeah, I would have the live TV and I would watch it with her like all the time.
Yep.
And yeah, it was amazing. But I didn't start watching that until like after everyone else. Like, it was on for a few
Mhm.
years, and then it just got popular out of nowhere.
Nowhere. Yeah.
And I was like, I joined the bandwagon, and then boom.
Yeah.
Also, Lynn, that is so funny. I used to create spreadsheets for for the TV programs I did as well. I would create a spreadsheet. I would do like a main hub page, and then I would have hyperlinks to every season, and I would
Mhm.
have images of every single episode, all in tables. I would even include like how many viewers that episode got in America, the adults to 18 to 49 rating. I was obsessed with television ratings. Like, I would be like, for some reason, like after an episode of Desperate Housewives would air, the
Yeah.
next day I would be on tvbythenumbers.com waiting to
That's
see what that episode got in
amazing.
ratings. Like, I was obsessed. Like, I was obscenely obsessed. The amount of time I wasted making spreadsheets for shows, I could have put into something. I could have saved lives. I could have found the cure to an illness in that time. It's
Oh
just
my
because
God. That's
I don't have any of those spreadsheets anymore. So yeah, all of it's like lost to the ether. But I would create pages upon pages of information, and
hilarious.
I would also rate every single episode out of 10, and then I would have like at the end of a television season, I would have like a chart of all
Mhm.
of the TV shows in the seasons, and they would be ranked. Oh my god, I'm telling you, I
That's
was
intense.
too
That's
obsessed. Too
intense.
obsessed.
Greta,
Mhm.
I agree. I also love British shows. I think that tons of them are so, so good. I
Yeah.
love the humor of British TV in general, but I really, really enjoy that. But I mean, there's of course like PBS where we get,
Mm.
Masterpiece and like all the British shows and things like
Yeah.
that. So I was obsessed with Downton Abbey when that was
Me too.
airing. Love Downton Abbey so much. I made my husband do the Myers-Briggs personality test
Oh
today
yeah.
because I
Oh.
knew mine and I was like, I'm curious what yours is. So
Mm.
I made him do it. And I was like, at the bottom, it gives you people and characters that are of your personality type.
Oh
And
yes.
I got Mary Crowley. So I was like, oh
You
good.
did?
I did.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's
So
iconic. What is the? Because I'm sure I have done the Myers-Briggs test before, but I can't remember my result. I cannot remember.
so I am an ENTJ. That was
Oh,
mine. My husband got an INTJ, so we're literally just one
mm,
letter different.
I
But
love that.
personality
I,
wise, different.
did you get the? Because I actually found it. Because as soon as you said that, I managed to find it. So I'm an INFJ, but also dash T. Did you
Yeah,
get a
I'm also a
dash?
dash T. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
turbulent. We are
Yes.
turbulent.
Exactly.
Yes.
My husband got dash A, which is analytical. I was like, oh, that might be a little bit better. But yeah.
Maybe.
But either way, still really fun. But it's interesting just
Yeah.
to kind of see how your tastes change and evolve as you
Mm,
grow, right? Like
yeah.
very clearly obsessed and involved with television and stories, and
Mm.
that's kind of just manifested now in a
Stories.
different way. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Like, I think I've always loved stories so much. So yeah, I would read so much when I was a kid, and then I think I did transfer into like films and TV, and then I
Mm,
kind of gotten back into. I think as soon as I finished uni, like uni ruined reading for me a little bit. Like,
same
it
here, 100%.
made me hate it quite
Yeah.
a bit actually. Not even just the fact that of what we were reading, but the fact that we would have to read so many books in such a short period of time,
Yeah.
and I don't like deadlines, so it really made me hate reading. But yeah,
I
it
love
took
a
me a couple of years.
deadline.
Oh, you do? Well, I guess you'd
thrive
have
on the
to.
deadline. Yeah, honestly, like
Yeah.
so I didn't like reading in the sense that I just didn't have time for it
Mhm.
because I am the overachieving kid. I always have been. I'm like, if I'm not succeeding in something, like I feel like I'm crumbling and dying on the inside. So for school, I was like, I
Mm.
have to do well at school because my goal was always to go to grad school. And I was like, I need to do all this stuff. So really, I was only afforded the time to have fun reading during breaks in the summer for the most part.
Mhm.
And by the time would get to the summer, I would read like a few books and I'd be like, okay, now I'm starting prep for the next semester
Mm.
because I would do like early reading and things like that for
Mm.
school. And then when grad school came around, I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to read anything ever again. Like that was pretty much my mentality. And honestly, like I didn't read much for a little bit after grad school, and I was just like, this isn't something I want to do. And it came back obviously, and I'm very happy that it did because it's something that I love very deeply. But yeah, school can
Thank God.
sometimes take that joy from you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It comes back.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it made me a little bit of a better reader, but I don't know because I feel like a lot of those skills, like say at uni, we kind of analyzed a lot of stuff. I don't think I have those analytical skills to this day. Not when
That's
I'm reading
okay.
like, not when I'm reading like Shrek smut and stuff like that. I don't think my uni professors would not let me do a dissertation on any of that.
Which
I
is
just know.
rude. They should have let you go with your
Very
passions, really. They should have let you go with
rude.
what you wanted. I keep seeing
And
these
obviously,
cats. I'm sorry to cut
oh
you
yes.
off. What are the cats' names that are going behind you?
The tuxedo cat is Ash, and then I have an all black cat called Tobu. They're named after a couple of characters from my favorite middle grade series, which is
Okay.
called Frost Heart by Jamie Littler. It's
Love
like a
that.
cross between How to Train Your Dragon and Avatar: The Last Airbender a bit.
Okay.
And I freaking love it. It's like my favorite ever. And yeah, they're two characters. Ash is the main character because Ash acts like a main character. Like my cat is the main character. And then Tobu is in the book Ash's Yeti guardian,
Okay.
and Tobu acts a little bit like Ash's guardian sometimes. Like he has to like calm him down sometimes. So
Mhm.
that's the story behind their names. But I love them so much.
Yeah.
They're only
I've
like two and a half years old, so they're still young.
we have 5 cats, so I hear
Oh,
you.
I love that. Oh, I love that so
Yeah,
much.
we keep rescuing them, and I'm like, "We're done. We're at 5, we're done." Like, 5
Um,
is the hard limit. That is the hard limit. But we have an all black one that I found in a sewer,
oh,
whose name is Salem because it had to
oh,
be Salem. And
of
then
course.
we got a black and white kitten earlier this year who we named Thackeray Binks from Hocus
Oh,
Pocus.
yeah, I love that.
So, yeah.
Wait, was that Thackeray Biggs in your recent October? Which
Yes.
cat was in your
Yeah,
October
that was him.
edition?
He likes to be heavily involved with anything that I set up. He's like, "Oh, that's brand new. I am going to investigate it." And I'm like, "Please don't." So, and the second you try to lock him up somewhere so you have separation that you won't have your
Mm,
things damaged, he starts howling. So I'm like, "There's no
mm,
winning. There is no winning here." But it's fine.
no, no, no. So, and the other ones are called.
We have Penny, aka Penelope,
Mhm.
from the Odyssey. We have
Yes.
Mercutio from Romeo and Juliet, but we call him Murray. We have Callisto from mythology, Callie,
Nice.
and Thackeray, which we call Binks all the time, and Salem. So
I love that we name our cats after, hi Tom. I love that we name cats after, characters, people from myths, stuff like that.
mhm,
So I don't get to like rescue a whole of cats, but there were two cats when I used to live with my mum because we live in an area where there were like quite a few stray cats, and some
mm,
of them we had a tiny little cat called Tiger. It was like an orange cat, and the
mm.
neighbors just left him, and he was a kitten. Like they just left him, so like we took him in, and but there was another cat, an old black cat, and I named him. This is terrible. Like he was a boy, and I named him Suki after True Blood. And like that, obviously that's a girl's name. And I was like, but I really wanted so badly to call a cat Suki.
I love
So
it. I
I
love
named
it so much.
this black stray cat Suki, who like my mum still has. Like He's
That's
old
amazing.
now, but like we still have Suki. But yeah, I just wanted to call a cat Suki, so that's what I did.
Oh,
I know.
I love it so much. No, Mercutio is really named for Ben Affleck playing Mercutio in Shakespeare in Love.
Mm.
So, because
Oh,
I will argue that that is the hill I will die on, that that is arguably Ben Affleck's greatest role.
oh, I
Uh,
don't hate me. I've never seen it. I've
it's
never seen Shakespeare in Love.
honestly, if you want a good laugh, like
Mm.
Shakespeare in Love is a really fun movie, specifically because of Ben Affleck. So, but I enjoy it either way. But when we knew we were going to be getting another cat, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to call him, and we were joking about Mercutio because we had just recently watched Shakespeare in Love, and I was like, actually, I like that. So I think that's what it's going to be, and it stuck, and it suits him perfectly, so it works.
I absolutely love that. I love creativity like that. And as readers, writers, the creative brain, it never stops. It never
Mhm.
stops in every aspect of
Yeah.
life. We could be naming a
Yeah.
child, a cat, a dog, anything.
Naming
Always love it.
children is a thing. Oh my god, it was a
I can
thing.
imagine.
I listed, this is no exaggeration, 1,000 names to my husband, and I was like, for the love of God,
Wow.
pick one. Just pick one. Like I cannot do this anymore. And finally I said a name to him and he was like, "Oh yeah, I don't mind that." I was like, "We're done. We're done. That's the name. That's the name." And it was just
I love that. It's just I don't mind that. Like,
exactly. I
okay,
was
sure.
like, fine, like that is the name. And it was just an exhaustingly tedious
Mm.
process.
I
So,
can. It's a huge deal though as
yeah,
well. It's like such a huge thing. So I totally get it.
yeah.
I totally get it. Not that I think I will ever have children, but if I did,
Two more
I
cats.
think the naming would be I think the hardest part, 100%.
Yeah, it took a while.
Mm.
It took a long while, but Catmandu, yes, I think that would be great, Brian. You definitely should.
Yes, Brian, do it.
Katniss is I can't
Uh,
remember if there's any cat name, which I think that's fine.
yeah, especially since it has like cat in the name,
Mhm.
so it
Ace
fits.
Rorschach and Kratos. Oh, I love that. And that is a very
Oh,
cute picture.
yeah, Kratos looks so cute.
Leo, I wanted Fitz. What is it? That's fine.
Mhm.
Yeah, sometimes the name just doesn't
Oh,
fit.
shield.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah,
it doesn't fit.
true. Like I called the orange cat that we rescued. I wanted to call Simba, but I just don't think it was really a Simba. But Tiger, obviously, like that's such a common cat name or like a common name in general. But he kind of fit it. So I was like, yeah, you look like a tiger.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I've always had a an orange tabby throughout my life. I started my first one I got when I was 6, and I've consistently had one since then. And my last one, who was like my first child, the absolute love of my life, he was named Sergeant Tibbs from 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, I
So
love that.
he ended up just being Tibbs. But initially, like I thought he would be Dexter, and I was like, nope, that
Hmm.
doesn't suit you in the slightest. It's got to be Tibbs.
I
So
love that.
yeah,
That's a great name.
right?
Absolute
Like
great name. Yes.
yeah. He was the love of my life. So it was well suited. I absolutely loved him. I
Mr.
had a cat
Kitty.
named Mr. Kitty. I mean,
So
gotta do what
clever.
you gotta do,
Yeah, it's so clever. It's so genius. It's yeah, I love it. I love it.
Tom.
It's got the Mister in there, so
Exactly. I love that. So many cat people. I mean, that's kind of
mm.
it's synonymous thing, I feel like, with book people. You find cat people.
Yeah, a lot of people I know in real life, well, obviously, like, well, like real life as well, but like, say, like in person,
Yeah.
like my siblings both have, like, so I'm the middle child. I have
Mm.
an older sister, younger brother. Both of them have dogs.
Oh, interesting.
And my dad has a dog. So many people I know have a dog. Like my friends have dogs.
Yeah.
I'm one of the very few cat people,
Oh, really?
and then yeah, as you say, like the book community, so
Yeah.
many cat people, and
So
you
many.
always see cats in people's videos. I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Always. Yeah, which is great. I like seeing it too, like in vlogs and stuff. I'm like, oh, cats. I get
Yeah.
pretty excited by it. But
Me
yeah,
too.
yeah.
It's part of the perks of watching like vlogs and stuff is when you do
Mhm.
get like the random appearance of a kitty sometimes. Oh, it makes my day. Makes my day when I see other people's cats.
What made you decide initially that you wanted to start vlogging? Because this has become like a big
Mm.
part of what you do. So what was the precipice of being like, yep, that's something I'm gonna do? What made
Did
you make that decision?
Did you ever do the magical readathon from Book Roast?
Nope.
That was a Harry Potter themed readathon
Oh, okay.
back in 2019. Like it was more like it did like the newts and the like it was like exam things, but you would fit a book prompt to like exams and you would get like marks and stuff. So that's what I did. Like she obviously like changed that from Harry Potter like to an original one in like 2020,
Yeah.
and it moved away from all that. But like I initially wanted to vlog and stuff because I loved so much taking part in a readathon. I loved so much taking part in a community-based event where
Yeah.
everyone was reading, and
Yeah.
I wanted people to know my opinions. I wanted people to
Mm.
know like my thoughts on these books because I was having the best time,
Ah,
and I was reading like the most books I ever read. I was finally starting to fall in love with reading again, and
yeah.
I wanted to document that and hopefully look back on it as well. Like in a few years down the line, I could look back at that and be like, oh, like I did that, and like I can remember feeling
Yeah.
so inspired and wanting to do that. So it was the Magical Readathon by Book Roast that got me wanting to be part of the community, and what a thriving community it is. You know, it's like
Yeah.
because this was back in 2019.
Hmm.
And you know, BookTube has been around for a while before then, and it's still thriving today.
Yeah.
Loads of different forms of it, but yeah, it was initially just because I really wanted to be part of a community and
Yeah.
talk about it. And readathons are the best way of doing that, I think.
I haven't done a single readathon.
You
I
know,
haven't done
that's
one.
so
No.
fun.
Yeah, I imagine they are. Honestly, like I pre-child, I probably would have been pretty game to do one, but now I'm
Mhm.
just like lucky if we get a few minutes to like
Oh,
be
uh,
human, you know?
honestly, they can be such pressure at the same time. Like
Yeah.
I don't partake in very many of them now. There's like 15, 16, 17 of them every month. There's
A
always one
lot.
going on. There's
That
a
is a
lot, so
lot.
it's overwhelming and it's a lot of pressure sometimes too. And I'm
Yeah.
such a reader. Like I plan vlogs like a year in advance sometimes, and so
Wow.
I kind of know what I need to read around certain times. So if a
Yeah.
readathon like starts in, I don't know, like September, and it doesn't fit my reading, I can't do it because I've
Mhm.
already got that TBR locked in. Like I need to do this video, I need to do that video. So
Oh, I'm
all
such
of
a
that's
mood
already mapped.
reader. I can't do
I
that
wish,
at all.
I
Mm-mm.
wish,
No.
I wish.
I don't know if you can hear my cat meowing in the background because he is locked up. So I am just gonna let him out. So you're
No,
on
that's
duty
fine.
to entertain for the next like 15 seconds.
That's fine. That's fine. Let me talk more about myself. So I'm a Taurus. I'm also a Cancer Moon and Cancer Rising, which means I'm very emotional. I will cry at so many things, and I've cried so many times on camera as well. And it's a little embarrassing. It's a little embarrassing. Oh, hello.
Yes, this is Banks.
Oh, Binks. Hi, Thackeray Binks. Oh my
Yes,
God.
the howler.
Uh, yes, but we love our cats, whether they're quiet
We
or
love
loud.
them anyway. Yeah.
We do. They can absolutely
Did you say that you're a Taurus with a Cancer rising, so you're
I,
emotional?
yeah, I'm a Cancer Moon and a Cancer Rising, so I'm double
Oh,
Cancer.
I
I'm double
am.
Cancer.
I'm a Pisces with
Okay.
a Scorpio and Libra, I want to say.
Mhm.
I'm a Scorpio rising Libra moon, or I think what it
Okay.
is. So Pisces sun. So it's a lot of emotions. It's a lot of water and a
Yeah.
lot of emotions.
Lot of
Yeah.
water. Yeah, yeah. Like I never know like what any of it means because like even a few years
No.
ago, people would be like, "Oh, what's his star sign? Like, what does that mean?" and stuff. I have no idea sometimes, but I just know Cancer Moon, Cancer Rising, double Cancer. I cry.
Yeah, that's basically it.
That's
All the water signs, they're like, "Oh, you just cry a
a
lot."
lot
And
of
I'm like,
signs. Yeah.
"We do other things." You know?
Yes, but I'm so glad that so Beltube must also be Taurus as well. Like, I love that. Oh, and
Mhm.
Tom's also Taurus as well.
Tom Orange?
Guys, no, no, sorry, I saw Beltube. Sorry, I because Beltube's the orange in the profile picture.
Yes, yes.
I automatically assume it's Tom Orange.
Yeah.
Automatically.
That's either way though. I mean, I always find that stuff kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's interesting though to see like what matches up and what doesn't. My husband is
Mhm.
1000% a Capricorn and it
All
fits in
right.
perfectly. I'm like, yep, that fits.
Damn. Yeah, I have so like Becca from Back in the Book, she's also Taurus. She's born 2 days before me. But
Mm,
we are two totally different Tauruses.
yeah.
You know, like you can get so many different factions
Oh yeah.
and stuff like that. But gosh,
Right.
I still wish I could learn all about that because I feel like you can learn so much about a person. sometimes from star signs and all of that. It's
interesting.
yeah, I find it quite interesting. I like stuff like that sometimes.
We've got a
Sagittarius,
varied
okay.
group here, Aquarius.
We
I'm
do.
considered toxic.
We do.
I mean, it's
It's
better
sad.
than Pisces, where people just think we read poetry in the corner and cry. So that's really all that we ever get. And I'm like, no, it's
Yeah.
not quite that.
Well, Taurus get a bad rep sometimes as well. Sometimes we're apparently like really stubborn and
Oh,
all this
really?
and the other. So I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
Funny.
But
That is
still.
funny. So, what are you excited to read for the end of the year? Because we're getting to be the end of the year already, which is insane.
We are. It is insane. I've already forgotten everything I mentioned. I did an end of year TBR and I've forgotten every single book on there. I do want to read The Bone Ships.
Okay.
Have you read that?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. Because that was I think my very first Broken Binding series. And I want to get back to the epic and adult fantasy. So I feel like that's quite high. I've been saying for a while I want to read that. So I definitely want to prioritize that one.
Yep.
I might actually have it written down on my notes app. Let me just
there you go.
I always need to remember things. I have the worst memory, but also the best memory at the same time. I will randomly remember that I bought my my High School Musical DVD on the 29th of December 2006. And I don't know why I specifically remember that date and why I bought the High School Musical DVD on that date, but I just do. I need to read An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson.
Okay.
Which is apparently dark academia fantasy horror kind of thing.
All right.
I think. I need to read 4 more Stephen King books by the end of the year. I don't know if anyone's read any of these, but I need to read Roadwork and The Running Man, which he released as Frederick Backman. And I need to read Cujo and Christine.
I think Slay has probably read some of these. I think he's a big reader, but yeah.
Okay, good. I also need to read some funny Christmas smut as well. As one does. Like every Christmas, I try and pick like really random ones. So last year, I read a romance about stockings. So like the stockings came to life. And the book was called The Stockings Were Hung. And yeah. So that is like my new Christmas tradition.
That's incredible.
Reading, like are they fighting or are they like
fighting?
Oh, bless them. Meanwhile, mine are I think chilling. Oh yeah, there's one just lying there. I don't know where the other one is.
Yeah, if you can hear them, they're like starting to get punchy.
They're like, Mama, we need you. Like,
yeah, no, they have decided that they used to have their like nighttime feeding at 10 p.m. and they've upped it since daylight saving times. They're like, it's 9, so I need to eat now, and I'm like, cool.
Wait, is it 9 o'clock for you now?
It is, yeah.
Cool. But yeah, I just need to read those like really random Christmas weird books. Like when things transform and turn into things. Like I read I don't know if I should say it. I read a fecal romance a couple of years ago. And I loved it because it was so funny. It was so funny. It was hilarious. Like, who comes up with this stuff?
I know, right? Who?
And like, how did they even start that? Like, how did that just come into their mind? So I have like a very weird mishmash of things that I need to read. I would love to know other people's like end of year TBRs. I don't know why I can't just be a normal person. Reading normal books. I have to read things about stockings, gingerbread men coming to life, elves. Like, I don't know. But I guess I have to be different. What about you?
I am probably going to reread ACOTAR again for like the 5th time this year because I feel like I just need it. And honestly, that's where my mind's at right now. I've also been trying to read more indie romantasy because I'm going to be joining that author community next year as an like published author in that community. So I'm like, you know what? I really need to know more of, hey, what's going on
Hey.
in that community. So I've been trying
Nice.
to dip my toes into that, which is why I've been reading the Legends of Thelsmar series this past week, which again I've been enjoying. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing. I'm looking here. I did want to finish the Divine Rivals duology. I started it and I haven't finished it yet.
That was just recommended to me by my friend.
Yeah, I really enjoyed book one. I've had a really good year of reading YA, so that's been really interesting, which is another subgenre that I kind of started reading this year. And I just read one recently that like I friggin' adored, which was A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. It was so beautifully written. I loved it. I've been raving about this book. Like that was one that I went on Goodreads and I was like, 5 stars, read this book. Her prose or their prose, I'm not sure what their pronouns are, were just so beautifully evocative. And I felt every emotion that every emotion while reading that book. And I was like, yes, this is what I want. So I was told after reading that there's another book by Ava Reed. I think it's called Juniper and something that I should be reading. So I'll probably try to look that up. Yeah, I'm going silent for a study time. Did you hate it?
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
So did you immersion read it?
I tried.
Okay.
I
will say I found the narrator, her voice to be like really soft. And that for me was like I had to focus a little bit harder because of that. But I ended up doing a lot more of just reading it than the audio. But I loved it. I loved it so much. So it worked for me. Again, like this is what I've said. The books, not every book is gonna work for everybody, you know.
Exactly.
Like, it's just how it works.
Exactly. And we're besties and we can still be friends after this, right?
We'll have our Sarah J. Maas readathon for the next book. But I don't know, like that's kind of where I'm at right now. I also want to reread Fourth Wing and Iron Flame before Onyx Storm comes out in January, because
is that when it comes out?
It comes out in January, so I like to be up to date. And I've been in a rereading era, which I'm actually really enjoying because like I'm going into things knowing I will already like them. And I really want to reread First Law by Joe Abercrombie because it just brings me joy. So it has my favorite character ever written. Like it is, I love it. So I think I'll just be kind of rereading my way through the holidays, but I'm also part of a book club, as I said. And what is the book?
You don't even know.
No, because we just were told it on Thursday. It is a sapphic romance called Season of Love by Helena Greer. So I'm going to read that. And I started a book club, an online book club with my 2 best friends because none of us live in the same place. And it's a way for us to kind of like catch up monthly and chat. And we, for this month, read book 2 of the Galatian trilogy by Stacey McEwen, which was Chasm. And if people aren't following Stacey McEwen online, if you want to laugh, like she is hysterical. And then the book for next month that my friend chose was Pumpkin Spice Cafe. So I'll be reading Pumpkin Spice Cafe. But and then January it goes back to me and I get to pick.
Nice. Yeah, did you say was in your October video so do you say you need to read Leviathan Wakes as well?
I do need to read it, for my book club with my husband and our Patreon. I haven't started it yet. I will be starting it as soon as I finish the 4th book in the Legends of Thelsmar. So be doing a little bit of a jump genre-wise from romantasy back into sci-fi. But I'm hoping I'll like it.
You've just got so much to read, though. That's so much stuff.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Honestly, like with Akatar and I go through those books like it is nothing. I'm like, I'll start it on Monday and by Thursday, I'm like, I've finished all 5 books and it is great. I had a great time. So I just get sucked in when I'm listening to those because I will actively just do the audiobook, the graphic audiobooks for those ones after having read them. But I have a feeling Leviathan Wakes is going to take me the longest out of anything, not just due to its length, but in terms of the content. So
Fair. No, that does look like a beast. That looks challenging. But if anyone can do it, it's you.
I mean,
Definitely.
thank you, Gavin. I appreciate your unwarranted faith in me.
It's not unwarranted.
Well,
It's
thank
not
you.
warranted. You've got so much under your belt already. Hi,
Yeah.
Salem.
We
Oh,
were
it's so
getting a tour of all
cute.
the cats here tonight,
Oh,
guys. This is
hello.
Salem.
Oh,
Hi.
so cute.
Yes,
Oh
my
my
little
gosh.
sewer kitty.
Oh,
Yeah.
looks just like my Tobu.
Is he as disgruntled as Salem? Because Salem is.
He can't. Whenever I pick him up, yes, he does. Well, he puts up with it. Like Tobu's very good at I'll pick him up and he'll stay still. Like he won't try and move and stuff, but he looks at me like,
Why are you doing
get
this
off
to
me.
me? Yeah.
Yeah, why are you doing this? Like you are a terrible father. Put me down. But he won't resist. Like he won't fight it. He just lets it
Yeah.
happen. And then but he just looks at me the entire time and he glares. He
That's so funny.
glares. Yeah, I love him. I love him anyway.
Yeah. It's hard not to, right? But
Mm-hmm.
okay, we've been chatting for over 2 hours, which is amazing because I feel like we could still chat for many, many more. But
Let's do two more. Let's do
it's
two more.
2 in the morning for you, and I already felt so bad that we were starting so late, even though you say you're a night owl, but even still.
I usually don't get to sleep until like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning anyway. And then I usually wake up maybe around about like 9-ish, start my day. Like that's usually my this is like end of day kind of cool down kind of thing for me. So it's all good. It is all good.
Well, I appreciate you spending your end of day cool down time with me. I'm
Of
happy that
course.
we finally got to do this. I mean, when did we plan this? Like August, July, August, I feel like.
Yeah, because it was one of the reasons why I couldn't do it was because I was doing my like vlogs of Halloween. I was doing I was trying to cram so much filming from like end of August to end of October before I went to Australia and Egypt. So I was like, okay, I need like also film content going up while I'm away.
Yeah.
So I was like, because I wanted to make sure that I was stress free. Like, if I had done this, I probably could have done this in September or October, but I would have had in the back of my mind, I should probably be reading right now. I should probably be filming. I should be editing. I should be doing all of this. So I felt like if you want the best version of me, I need to get all of that crap out of the way.
I'll take any version, but the best version, absolutely. I mean, it ended up working out okay because I came back home from England so sick. We caught something. I don't know if it was on the plane or just.
It was England. It was England. We're dirty people.
I might have been, honestly, but like I was laid flat for a few weeks where I was like, I'm not doing anything. So this ended up working out just great. I had such a great time in England. I love England so very much. So I mean, for me,
we'll have you back, and next time we'll make sure that you don't go homesick.
That would be good. Yeah, that would be really, really good. We've also decided like we're just not going to travel at that time of the year anymore. We're like, it's October. It's October's fault. So.
True. You're probably best to do a little bit warmer, so there's not really the chance of getting a cold or flu or anything like that. So
exactly. Well, Gavin,
100%.
I'm sure everyone knows where to find you on internet and YouTube and all that fun stuff. But tell people where they can find you.
I say I probably should have put in my name, but I'm just Gav. I just put Gav. I probably should have put it in there. But I am on YouTube at Gavin Reads It All. I'm like you. I had a different channel name. I changed it last year. And so I changed it from How to Train Your Gavin. That's what I used to be because I loved How to Train Your Dragon. So I was like, How to Train Your Gavin? That'll be fun. Changed that to Gavin Reads It All last year. So that's when I'm on YouTube. Like on Instagram, Gav7, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but YouTube is my main platform anyway. YouTube is where I'm usually at, and I'm always uploading videos. I like to do like fun reading vlogs and challenges and stuff like that. So that's
very thematic.
I try to be, honestly. I want to make watching book content as fun for everyone as it is like me reading the books. I try. I do. Thank you so much. I do try.
I think you do an excellent job. But
Thank
you
you.
all so much for coming to hang out with us. If you would like to help support the channel, you can always hit like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you would like to go a little bit further in helping to support the channel, there is a Patreon if you want to consider joining that. Gavin also has a Patreon if you're interested in watching Once Upon a Time and doing fun hangouts and things like that. But as always, thank you so much for spending your Saturday night or morning with us, no matter where you are. Or
yeah, I was wondering.
Sunday
Yeah,
morning.
I was like, how do I promote this live show? Like, what time? Because it's midnight mine, so technically it's Sunday for me.
Yeah,
so I can't really
exactly.
say. Yeah, so it was weird, but I love it. I love a challenge.
Well, thank you all once again for joining us. Oh, this is so fun, Gavin. You'll have to come back and we'll do a part 2.
Yes, absolutely. Look, the fireworks say yes. That's all I know how to.
We can try doing the hearts too. There we go. Love bomb, yay! All right,
welcome back.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Do the rain.